than missing throws, and that's lying and skim milk. And skim milk's just water lying about being milk. So got to make those throws.
And welcome back, latest and greatest episode of the Shaving Points podcast. My name is Jayden May, joined as always by my co-host Quentin Crisco. And joining us tonight, a very special guest helping us break down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We have Mr. JC Allen.
What's going on, guys? What an intro. I mean, what a quote. What a quote.
I'm glad you enjoyed that. I was searching for one today, and I was like, this is it. This is the one.
That was great. I'm going to have to bring that up to him. I'm going to see if his opinion's changed on skim milk when I see him next on Thursday for sure.
But so ask him about his favorite restaurants in Lubbock, Texas.
Yeah,
I will. Give me all the little small little deets from back in the day so I can grill him on it.
Ask him what exactly happened at Chimmy's back in, when was that, Jay? 2015?
2014.
Uh-oh. Is that something I should ask him, or is that something that he's going to be like?
No, he had I think he got kicked out, was it?
Yeah, by Chad.
Yeah, by our buddy Chad.
One of our buddies. Right, well, our buddy was the manager there, but yeah.
Oh, jeez. All right.
But anyways, we got JC Allen on the show to talk Buccaneers with us tonight, and then we're getting to the rest of the NFC South after that. JC, can you tell everyone where they can find your work and anything you might want to highlight about what you're putting out there right now?
Yeah, for sure. So we're starting with the best, obviously, and then we'll go to the other teams that aren't going to win the NFC South. I like your style there, but name is JC Allen. You can find me on Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it nowadays, at JC Allen NFL. I'm one of the types that I like to follow the league. So if you're one of those people who love football, if your favorite team disappeared and you would just want to know what's going on with every team in the league, I'm your one-stop shop for everything Bucs. I got everything you guys need there. So definitely check me out there. All my work is over at Sports Illustrated Bucs Game Day. So you can find all my work over there. We're pumping out content as training camp continues. And then I have a podcast called the Pirate Parlay over on the Sick Podcast Network. Kind of talking with Quentin earlier. He's like, is that a gambling podcast? I was like, no, it's like Pirates of the Caribbean parlay, so Bucks talk, Pirate Parlay kind of goes hand in hand there. But
I get it now.
Yeah, you get it? So
I thought gambling as well.
It's all good. I spelled parlay wrong, so it's probably why. But anyways, I'm a writer too. Go figure. But great stuff over there. I had Todd Bowles on last week. I had Liam Cohen on, the offensive coordinator. I got rookie Jalen McMillan coming on Wednesday, the 31st, whenever this airs. So if it probably already didn't air yet, go back and watch it. He's been lighting it up over there. So a lot of good stuff cooking over here, down here in Tampa. And I'm excited to get on here, chop it up with you guys, and keep the content flowing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, JC, when you think about and look at the Bucs roster, what's the area that you start at, like saying this is the strength of the roster? This is where it all starts for the Bucs.
I think safety. I think you look no further than safety. They got the best safety in the league in Antoine Winfield Jr., capable of doing it all. Quite frankly, you need him down in the box. You need him at slot. You need him in the back end of the field, blitzing, creating turnovers, saving touchdown scoring plays like he did in Carolina. He can do everything, and he does it well. He's an all-pro for a reason, highest paid defensive back for a reason. And I think he just kind of is the tip of the iceberg, especially in that back end of the secondary that makes everything go, the communication he has. Then you bring back Jordan Whitehead, who was that hard-hitting safety, can play really well in the box, but has really improved his coverage and his ability to make plays on the ball. Last year, obviously, that opening game, Aaron Rodgers went down 3 interceptions in that one game off Josh Allen. But even more so, he's shown the ability to grow as a coverage player as well, not such a liability when asked to drop back. And I think the two of them who have experienced working with each other and have already kind of shown that throughout training camp that it's going to be a seamless fit, putting him back in the defense, really highlights one of the strengths on that defensive side of the ball. And then you kind of look behind them, you're like, oh, Kayvon Merriweather, like that's a strength. You got two guys, but really it's so much more than that. Kayvon Merriweather, Iowa guy, enough said, right? Those Iowa safeties are so smart, instinctual, and he got to start 2 games last year. He's been cross-trained at free safety, strong safety this year. He missed the first week of camp, but came back, and he's already been making plays on the ball. So he's another guy. But they also, it goes further than that. Christian Isian, who played nickel for them as an undrafted free agent, he's getting cross-trained at strong safety, free safety, kind of in that Antoine Winfield Jr. style, smaller guy, but packs a wallop, good range and coverage. Tavier Thomas is getting cross-trained there as well. He's got 3 interceptions so far in camp and 6 practices. And then, Tyke Smith, who's not on here as well, the rookie that they drafted, he's getting, play at safety, played a little there at Georgia. He's been drawing absolutely rave reviews. He's in the mix for nickel, but we know Bowles likes to just get creative back there. So I expect to see packages with Antoine Winfield Jr., Jordan Whitehead, Christian Isian, or Tavier Thomas, all these guys on the field at some point on the same time, just because of how multiple they can do. But you hear guys like Tavier Thomas, who's a 6-year vet coming into his 7th year, saying Tyke's picked this defense up so quickly. He's like a veteran. He's teaching me things about safety because he's never played it before. And he's just, flying around, and coaches, players alike on offense and defense just rave reviews about this kid. He's been running ones at nickelback, kind of splitting some time up there. So I think safety is a position you look at and you're like, okay, they got 2 dedicated safeties, but they got like 5 guys who can play safety in a pinch and could probably do it at a high level. So I think that's the strength of this roster. If you're looking at pure position groups, that's number 1 for me.
I mean, that makes sense to me. I mean, especially from a Todd Bowles defense, I feel like he always has the defensive back room really playing very diverse roles, all sorts of very interchangeable roles throughout the defense. And I mean, I feel like a guy like Tyke Smith is a great fit in a Todd Bowles defense. But when I look at the cornerbacks, tell me a little bit about Zion McCollum, what to expect from him this year. Because I believe, is he going to be starting outside across from Dean?
Yeah, so, and go figure, former safety Todd Bowles has his safety room in check, right?
Yeah.
But Zion McCollum is a name that you really need to kind of get used to. Last year, he played all over the field, started 9 games. Jamel Dean had some injuries. He went in for him. Carlton Davis had some injuries, went in from him. Ryan Neal, the strong safety that they brought in from Seattle, who was graded as the number 1 safety for PFF. That way you kind of look at these grades on here for PFF and be like, it's not the end all be all, because he was unplayable almost last year, and he got to start at safety as well. So this kid is one of the most athletic corners that have ever tested coming out of the combine. His RAS score was off the charts. He's got the length, he's got the height, he's got the 4.33 speed, and really things are starting to come together for him this year. He didn't really play much his rookie year, got thrust into action a little sooner than he probably needed to, missed a lot of time in camp as well. Last year, you saw that kind of ascent, took some. You wanted to see more interceptions after. I think he had like 15 or 16 at Sam Houston State. Not, top Power 5 school, but still, that's, ball production's ball production. And you didn't really see any of those last year interceptions. But this year, speaking to him, he's trained his butt off all season. He bought a jugs machine, and him and his wife go out to fields and they work on catching balls on the jugs. He's got his wife running it, and is like, they bought a generator so they can plug it in the generator so it can feed the jugs machine. But he's got goals and aspirations of 6 touchdowns. For him, the biggest thing is he finally Bulls defense. I mean, you talk to any of these guys, they're like, it's crazy. Tavier Thomas, I talked to him the other day. I got an interview up on my page, both on Pirate Parlay and on my Twitter X page. And he's like, I went from Cleveland to having like 10 calls to Houston to having like 8 to 10 calls. I can hear there's like 58 calls. I'm like, what's going on? So both defense is very complicated. So Zion's finally at the point where he knows it like the back of his hand. Not only does he know it, he's also played at nickel. He's played at safety. So he knows what everybody else is supposed to be doing because he had to learn those areas of the playbook. So things are starting to slow down for him tremendously, to the point where he told us in the offseason that he's not relying on his speed as much as he's done in years past. He's using it as a tool to break on balls and to know when he can take those chances. He's locked down Mike Evans a few times in camp so far. Came down with a pick 6 on Thursday's practice. So I mean, he's flying around making plays with the balls, and I think he's going to be a name that might surprise a lot of people this season, that might have never heard of him.
And with the difficulty in the calls that you're talking about, is that more like disguise stuff that might be different depending on what they see coming out of the play, or is it like fire zone stuff, or what exactly is
It's
going
a little bit of
on with
everything.
it?
It's a little bit of everything, especially on the back end, it's all based off communication. Like you need to be able to communicate what you're seeing, so people fall into the right spots, whether you're in zone, whether you're in man. But there's also just different things based on what the front's doing, what your responsibilities are. Because Bulls will send line up Levante David as a defensive tackle, drop Vita Vea in coverage. So there's like so many different. Your responsibility can change like that based on what they're calling in and what plays are going. So it's kind of a little bit of mixture of everything in between there. And like I said, he's finally at the point where he understands everything that's going on. That's allowing him to use his speed as a weapon instead of using it as a crutch or using it as something to fall back on.
And with that aggressiveness that Bulls does bring as a play caller, like I notice how much green I see on the run defense with these guys, which has to be so key when you are willing to be as aggressive as Bulls is. Like that, these guys need to be tackling, need to be playing the run lanes well. Like it seems like they really target those guys.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that's consistently, ranked high in run defense. They know how to play aggressively, but instinctually and smart, where they can also know where their gaps are, know where they can take their risks and chances. And also, they've been doing it for so long at a high level. A guy like Levante David sees something, and he's gone. There was a play, I forget who it was. I think it might have been Carolina, but it was a pitch to the outside, and Levante was already running to the ends to the outside area where the ball carrier was going to be. Tackle for loss for 3 yards. He was already there before he could even come anywhere near the line of scrimmage because he just saw it and recognized it. So
Levante David's so good.
He's the most underrated linebacker I've ever seen with my entire eyes. In my entire life, with my eyes in my entire life, not my entire eyes, just part of my eyes.
Entire eyes with your life. No, he's a guy that we talk about often on this podcast about guys that get overlooked, get disrespected, and like he's like one of the go-to names, and Mike Evans as well, who we'll talk about later on. But I just feel like something about Tampa just buries people in the minds of the.
It's crazy because you take
the greater audience.
Right. You take his numbers, you stack them up next to Bobby Wagner, Luke Kuechly, and I ask you to who's who, and you're gonna say, "Oh, well, this was probably this guy because of the numbers." But no, it's Levante David. He's got more turnovers. He's more turnovers, more tackles for loss. But he didn't play in the Legion of Boom. He didn't play with Kansas in the Super Bowl. Panthers,
and he's been doing it for 12 years.
Right, consistently at a high level. Him and Bobby Wagner came in together. Bobby Wagner is still getting all pros and Pro Bowls and having half the type of season that Levante is. So, still a great player, not taken away from any of those guys, but Levante needs
I almost felt like when they drafted Devin Bush, it was almost kind of this idea of like, okay, Levante David will pass the torch to him.
Oh, Devin White.
Devin White. I'm sorry, Devin White. The other
we got our Devins confused on here too.
Yeah, Devin Bush. We
did the same thing on the talking Steelers.
Yeah, and then he outlasts him. Like he's still here. Devin White's gone. But so how are they gonna fill the void that Devin White left? And I'm not sure what your thoughts on Devin White were, but if KJ Britt comes in here, you get JJ Russell behind him. Maybe I'm missing a few lower end roster guys here, but what's kind of going to happen at that other linebacker spot?
Yeah. So Devin White is such an enigmatic player. He's got the speed. He can blitz you, but there's just something there missing. Whether that's, film work, whether that's, and I think what happened too, he won a Super Bowl. He had a great run during that Super Bowl. The next 2 years, he's gotten recognized by ESPN executives as a top 10 linebacker in the league based off past performances when he was nothing but the last 2 years. He's a coverage and liability. He had difficulties getting off blocks once he was engulfed by guards and centers and tackles climbing to the next level. And he also free ranged a lot. He just kind of freelanced and free ranged a lot and was often found in the wrong area, running into his own teammates. There's skill there for sure, but they tried to hone that in at a certain point. He just became someone that was difficult to be around in the locker room, whether that's teammates or media. But I think KJ Britt came in last year and you saw a guy who might not be as athletically gifted as Devin White, but a guy who puts the work in, a guy who I had him on my podcast earlier this season. I'm like, so what do you like to do for fun? He's like, mostly watch film and, work out. I was like, yeah, but like when you're not, he's like, well, I like to hunt rabbits. I go out and hunt rabbits with my uncle like once a year in Alabama. I'm like, oh, just that's it. Like once a year, like hang out with my daughter, watch film.
I get 1 day away from football a year.
Yeah,
hunt rabbits.
Watch his film with his daughter.
Junkie, like he's a junkie, and you saw that because last year you'd be like, how did KJ Britt get from point A to point B? I know how fast he is, It's because he's so smart. He puts so much time and effort into knowing what his opponent's doing, knowing where he can do this and do that, that it really shows up on film and it makes him appear. His, people say play speed faster than time speed. That's KJ Britt. He's a 2-down thumper. Who's gonna try to play some third downs here, but a guy you don't have listed on there, Servassier Dennis, who they drafted in the 5th round last year. He's gonna play a lot this year. They're gonna find packages, whether that's Britt coming off the field on 3rd down and Servassier Dennis going in there, or just other certain packages. He started a game last year against the Colts. It might have been the Niners, but he performed pretty well. He's one thing that people forget about him was how lethal he was as someone coming off the edge as a blitzer. When he was at Pitt, he had 7 sacks his senior year there, and he was very dynamic there. But has also got a lot of range to play coverage. JJ Russell is another guy who started a game against the Colts last year due to injury, and he came in, had a sack, and played fairly well, and showed that in a pinch, he's a core special teamer, but in a pinch, they can rely on him to come in and play meaningful snaps. And I think he played his hair off during training camp. Very surprised no one picked him up on waivers when he was cut down. Came back to the practice squad by week 5. He was on the active roster with offers from other teams too. So turned down an offer from Green Bay for their active roster to stay with the Buccaneers. So, and then Kalen DeLoach, who they signed as an undrafted free agent, kid from FSU, undersized linebacker, but Levante was undersized. Brooks was undersized. Bucks have pretty good track record with undersized linebackers, and he's already making plays. He actually had 2 sacks, one on Baker, one on Trask in the same day. And tonight, Tuesday, they had an indoor practice. He scooped up a fumble and ran it in for a touchdown. That was caused by Rashad Wisdom, one of their safeties they have there. That's an undrafted guy. So they've got good depth. They're really confident in KJ Britt. A part where I think a lot of Bucs fans were nervous during the season or the offseason early on, and we're like, maybe we need a linebacker. I think those fears have kind of, and those expectations with Britt have kind of risen, and it's not as big of an area of concern, I think, as it might have been before. I think depth is probably a little bit of a concern there, true veteran depth. But as far as KJ Britt signing Levante David, I think a lot of fans, and I certainly, from someone who's watched and seen in practice and last year, I think he's going to be fine.
Yeah, and I feel like linebackers are always kind of a position where if you have good personnel department and good coaching, you can kind of find linebackers who can be Band-Aids in injury situations and kind of step in and do some work as long as you have a defensive line that can protect them a little bit. And I mean, when you got Vita Vea in front of them, I feel like that goes a long way. And I mean, even
Larry Foote too. I mean, Larry Foote was a heck of a linebacker.
Yeah.
And he's one of their coaches too. He's inside linebacker coach. Can't go wrong with that.
Yeah. Pittsburgh Steeler legend, Larry Foote.
Legend.
But on this D line, so we know Vita Vea is he's a monster. He's a dude. You don't find nose tackles who can rush the passer like he can all that often, and he's really impressive with it. But how do you expect Kalijah Cansey to grow next to him this year and improve, kind of coming from rookie year over to year two?
And so Vita, fun fact about Vita is he's slimmed down about 20 pounds this offseason, kept all of his strength, but he's slimmer, he's quicker, he's faster. We've all seen Vita Vea, we're like, and Vita Vea makes a tackle 15 yards down the field. Like, who? Vita Vea chased down a running back from the backfield 15 yards down the field? What? But he's gotten faster, quicker. I expect him to knock on the door of double-digit sacks, and I expect Kalijah Cansey to be right there with him. Kalijah Cansey missed almost all of training camp, played for a half against the Vikings, but then missed the next 4 games or 3.5 games plus the bye weeks, so 4.5 weeks. Came back and set the league on fire. He had more sacks than Vita Vea, more sacks than Gerald McCoy, more sacks than Warren Sapp his rookie season with the Buccaneers than either of those guys did. He had more tackles for loss as well. He was a nightmare in the backfield. The biggest question mark for him was, you've got the run defense, 29.5 up there. I don't feel like that's indicative of his true performance. Sure, there's times where he needs to get better, and he could have got better. But I think for his size, for the negative talk about it, I feel like he performed a lot better in run defense than he got credit for last year. Also, you got to remember, when you're coming in as a rookie, it's like Marvin Harrison set the example I wish a lot of guys would take that have that status, right? Marvin said, I'm not doing all this crap. Why am I going to train for a combine and a pro day? I'm getting ready for the season. And I think Marvin Harrison is going to have a monster year because of it. Because so often these guys, their rookie year, are training for the underwear Olympics and training for a 40 time and training for all this crap that they get away from football training. And now they have to go into rookie mini camp. And now they have to work their tail off, if they're smart, in their vacation time between, mandatory mini camp and training camp, and continue to put the weight back on where they need it, that they took it off to run a faster time and all that stuff. So with a full season of a strength and off, he looks bigger, stronger. I think he's going to do much better in the run game. And with Vita Vea getting faster, quicker, it's going to be a nightmare for opponents to have to try to combat these, because he's still got a double Vita. He didn't lose that much,
Yeah.
And that's going to leave a lot of one-on-ones for Cansey. Logan Hall has gotten bigger. He looks faster and stronger too. I mean, he just needs to kind of realize that he's got a goal of 10 sacks. He's not going to get it, but he's got to realize that, hey, I got the dirty job. I'm the lunch and pail guy, and that's a role that Will Golston has really embraced throughout his career. Is that they drafted Logan because of his speed and his size and his strength at that position. But once they drafted Cansey and they got Vea, he just kind of needs to take a step back and not do too much, but do everything to let all the other guys go. Greg Gaines is a valuable nose tackle. Numbers dipped last year. Production really didn't. When Vita Vea was out, he held up admirably. Again, Will Golston is Will Golston. I think Mike Green, Eric Banks, haven't seen much of Eric Banks. Mike Green was on the team last year. He was that 6th defensive lineman. It's going to be interesting to see with the new kickoff rules if they keep a 6th defensive lineman or choose to go at a 6th outside linebacker or a 5th inside linebacker instead. Looking at the way they're setting things up, they've got a defensive lineman on that kickoff return. Things will change in kickoff. But I don't necessarily know if with the practice squad rules too, you can elevate guys up to 3 times. So maybe you put 2 defensive linemen there. And this is where you cut a spot. But Judge Culpepper is another name I look at. Ernest Brown is another name I look at to kind of challenge Mike Green for that final spot. But, yeah, defense, they look to have good depth there, versatile depth there. And, Bowles is crazy. He's going to play these guys all over the place.
And Greg Gaines is like, you ever have those players that you just like, you just like way more than you probably should, and you can't really explain why. You just like the grit that they play with. Like Greg Gaines is that guy for me. Every time I see Greg Gaines' name, I'm like, dog.
He's awesome.
That dude rules. But like he's not great, but he's solid, and I just love the way he plays football.
Yeah, we went on the Bucks cruise. So the Buccaneers, they have a Bucks cruise they do out of Fort Lauderdale to Key West in the Bahamas, and we were on the Bucks cruise last year. We went to Pig Island in the Bahamas together. That was an experience that I had with Greg that I'll never forget. It's pretty fun. It's not
What is Pig Island?
It's like one of the top 10 beaches, right? Instagram models, whatever they go there. You can swim with pigs, right? You feed with these feral pigs on an island, but they're really not. They're in their cage and they're waiting for people to come and feed them hot dogs and stuff every day and multiple times a day. And you get in the water and they start shitting and pissing in the water with you. It's like, like look up like Pig Island, beautiful beaches, whatnot. It's not that. It's not that. It was an experience. I'd never do it again. I wish I went to Atlanta and rode jet skis with the rest of the guys on the bus. No.
Yeah, I raised pigs growing up.
Yeah.
Every time I see those pictures on the Pig Island, I'm like, there's no way. I was like, there's got to be shit everywhere.
It was an experience. They'll swim out to you and kick their feet.
Oh yeah, pigs are like dogs. They're just as smart as dogs. I mean, they can do it. I'm just talking about like how clean it always looks on the pictures. I'm like, yeah, they're filthy animals.
It's not that clean. It's not that clean. I should have went jet skiing with Jamel Dean, Rashad White, and them at Atlanta. So I was kind of upset about it. But it was an experience. Me and my wife had fun. It was great.
So outside the interior, like, tell me a little bit about Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, because I mean, probably based on, for no fault of his own, I didn't notice him much on the tape that I was watching. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about him as a player.
Got a hell of a name.
Yeah, I mean, you might not notice him as a pass rusher as much. He does get decent at, he's very strong. He looks like an action figure, and he can get into the backfield. Doesn't have the greatest of bend, but there's a lot of wasted opportunities there, and he'll be the first to tell you not finishing. But I'm sure as you watch the tape too, the time the edge rushers had to get to the quarterback before the quarterback got the ball out, it was very quick. I mean, they were one of the teams that had the quarterbacks were getting the ball out against them at an alarming rate. It was like 2.6 seconds or something like that. Ball was gone. So it was difficult for them to rack up the sacks the way they wanted to last year. I think I talked to Shaq Barrett on my podcast, and he's like, you don't think we're trying to get back there? He's like, the ball's gone by the time we get back there. But I think, and even again, talk about run defense, I think this grade is not indicative of what he does. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka is one of the best coverage linebackers, if not the best coverage linebacker, outside linebacker in football, especially in 3-4 defenses. But his run defense, he sets the edge very, very well. And sometimes it gets lost because he's an edge rusher. So where are the sack numbers?
As the Sam outside linebacker in a 3-4, like you don't exactly get the same glory that you do as the weak side guy, because you're having to set that hard edge. That makes sense. And with the run defense grades, truly, I think the PFF knocks trench players a little too much on missed tackles in their grades. That's where I think it is, at least, because I'll notice a guy whose grade I think is too low, and they'll look at his missed tackle and it's a little elevated for the other guys. But in the trenches, a lot of times, if you're missing a tackle, you're forcing a guy into a run lane that's filled. So, I mean, the way that I see it, I don't usually think that, that the missed tackles in there are as bad as they might show up in the grade.
Yeah, I think PFF is great. It's one of the only tools we have to measure, but we can't. The eyes measure more, It's like the old baseball scouts, I trust my eyes more than I trust the numbers sometimes, even though the numbers are extremely useful and I do rely on them a lot. But I think he's in tune for a real big season. His fifth year option declined, so he's playing on the final year of his deal. He's going to get paid next year, whether that's by the Bucs or not. I mean, for a former first round pick, the way he sets the edge, the way he plays coverage, he's going to get at least $10 million a year from some team. If he goes out and has the season I think he's going to have, which is like, I call it the redemption or the revenge tour for JTS, because a lot of fans have kind of written him off already as well. You got to remember, this is a kid coming out after COVID year, sat out his COVID year, had one real year of production, and needed time to kind of grow in his body. He comes in his rookie season. He's played at 3 technique. He's kind of playing all out of position because they have JPP, who's he's got like an elbow injury and a finger injury. He's all banged up, but because he's JPP, he's
Multiple
starting on
finger
the
issues.
outside. Yeah, multiple finger issues. Yeah. He's starting on the outside, so he didn't really get to play consistently. Then his second year, halfway through the season, Jack Barrett goes down. So you're not going to focus on Anthony Nelson, who I think is a phenomenal player. Jack of all trades guy, not great at anything, but solid at everything. So now defense is our focus. We're going to stop one guy. We're stopping JTS. And then last year, you kind of Yaya Diaby, who we'll get into, just kind of blew up on the scene and, took over him. But JTS still played a ton of snaps. You see that, probably the second most snaps on the team behind Shaq Barrett at that position. But I think he's in tune. He's been dominant in camp so far, winning against Tristan Wirfs, winning against Luke Gedeke, and just making plays all over the field. But
Tristan Wirfs, we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah. So, but Yaya is
loved him in that draft. I thought, I loved the whole Bucs draft.
Another great name
last year, but Yaya Diaby was one of my favorite, like one of my guys in that class. He's
looked unstoppable. Mm-hmm. He's had a few reps where he's just manhandled Tristan, and that's not easy to do. He's one of these guys, and I think you'll agree with me that you liked what you saw. You saw it was a little raw. You thought it would take a little bit of time. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you right now, and I talked to him yesterday, that time is now. He is well above schedule, I think, from what I thought.
Player of the year?
He probably should have been the defensive rookie of the year last year over Will Anderson. He had more sacks than Will Anderson.
We like to give out one defensive player of the year award every week.
He had more sacks than Will Anderson, and he had the most tackles for loss out of any rookie last year in the NFL. I think he certainly should have been in that conversation. But again, he's not a first round pick. He doesn't get that glory there. I don't think he's defensive player of the year, but I do think he's got a strong shot at double-digit sacks this year. I don't know.
Randy Gregory is definitely getting defensive player of the year then.
Yeah, I don't know if Diaby will ever be that premier number one guy. Those top echelon Bosa, those Brian Burns-esques. But whatever that notch is below it, right below it, is I think where he can land and have a really strong, successful career.
Jared Allen made a whole career out of being that guy.
Yeah, I mean, that could be a good comp for him. He's going to be really good this year. And, we established I'm a Patriots fan. I have no bias towards this team. There's nothing. I'm not like, oh, this is my guys. They're my guys, but there's no bias here towards this team at all when I'm talking. There's going to be issues. They've got to hold up for the full season. The pressure's on now. People know who you are, Yaya. They're going to be trying to take you away now.
Sounds like this defense is going to be very, very good this year.
I think the defense has an opportunity to be very, very good. Randy Gregory should be cut any day now. He's there, quite frankly. You don't no call, no show your boss in mandatory minicamp, and then no call, no show during training camp.
Randy Gregory did that, of all people?
Right, of all people. But I think right now, just kind of, a certain amount of time goes and see what they can recoup for signing bonus or something. He's almost up to $500,000 in fines, which is coincidentally what he's suing the league for. So, not a good play by him. Anthony Nelson, I mentioned, he's steady Eddie. He does everything kind of well, nothing great. He'll get you some pressures. He'll get you some turnovers. He'll play good coverage. He'll play strong defense. He's a good guy. Marquise Watts is someone to watch. He led the team in pressure percentage when he was allowed to go. He's got incredible bend. Reminds me a little bit of Shaq Barrett early on.
Where's he out
of? Charlotte. All-time leader sacker in Charlotte. So he's a guy who I think he makes this roster again, made it last year. And I think he's going to make some noise. Jose Ramirez was a 6th-round draft pick, lauded last year for his work
Eastern
in
Michigan.
Eastern Michigan, yeah.
Yeah.
Jose Ramirez is my neighbor.
Who?
Jose Ramirez is my neighbor. He owns a AC company here.
Oh, okay. Different Jose Ramirez. Very common name. But I think he's going to surprise and make the team. He was a havoc tonight in the backfield at training camp practice as well. And then Chris Braswell, who I almost forgot about because he wasn't on this list, but he's been
So any rookies that you're looking for, they're on the bottom. They're underneath everybody.
Yeah, I see that now. Chris Braswell's looked great. He had this play yesterday at camp where he broke through the line and made Baker scramble to his right. And just as Baker was about to kind of hit out of bounds and Braswell was about to get him, Baker unleashed a beautiful ball placement throw to Chris Godwin, who contorted while he was sliding his body and reeled it in. But he's been bringing a lot of pressure. He's working with the second team. JTS and Yaya have been working with that first team. So he's getting, work on second team guys. But as pads come on and as things kind of circle, he'll get more involved with that first team unit and get those opportunities to go against guys like Tristan and guys like Luke Gedeke. But I've been surprised. I have been pleasantly surprised from him. I wasn't as high on him during the draft process because I didn't think he had like enough bend. I thought he was kind of similar to what they had on the roster already. And maybe they're looking for a guy who's super bendy and kind of be that speed guy, not like the Penn State guy Trot Robinson, I think is going to be a bust. But I just thought maybe they'd look for another guy. Who was the kid? One in the third round. Austin Booker. I thought maybe an Austin Booker type, something like that. Rocket, but speed, bend, get around the edge with ease. Someone like that might be what they wanted to. But so I didn't, look at Chris Braswell. Plus, obviously, he didn't play a ton at Alabama. But I think he's got a good chance to not only crack the rotation, but if JTS struggles at all, potentially overtake him at some point during the season and win that starting job from him. So,
yeah, as you're saying that, I mean, I feel like Braswell's a really strong fit for Bulls. Like I was kind of conflicted on him as a prospect because like I liked a lot of his technique. I thought he played a lot bigger than he looked. But like you said, I was a little concerned about like the lack of bend and some of that stuff. But his versatility was really interesting. I think it's something that will play in this top Bulls defense pretty well whenever he does get a chance.
Yeah, when you turn on the tape with him last year, he was always making plays that like saved games for Alabama, like that pick six. Fumble recovery, like he's always kind of around the ball making plays and lining up different spots too, and one thing that they really liked about him was that he could have went anywhere would have taken him if he wanted to transfer, and he didn't shy away from the competition, bided his time, waited his turn, still was in a rotation his final year. There were Dallas Turner and other guys on that Bama team, but led the SEC in pressures, which is not hard to do, which is not easy to do, especially as a rotational player. So I think he brings a lot to the table. They've got a really solid edge group right there. No stars, and I think that's probably one of the number one priorities next offseason. JTS probably goes somewhere else, makes his probably 12 to 15 million, and you go out there and you'll have some extra money. You sign that maybe $20 million edge rusher or trade for him and bring him in. And now paired with Diaby, paired with Braswell, paired with some of these other young guys that you have on the roster, you've got a stacked edge room.
Well, especially when you got guys in the interior who can attack like Vea and Cansey. I feel like that takes pressure off your edge guys to be the guy. They can just be good, not great, when you have that type of interior pressure building up.
Right. Which helps the back end too, At all three levels, and this is something Bulls loves about his defense. He's got Antoine, he's got Levante, he's got Vita Vea. At all three levels, he's got elite communicators, elite leaders, and elite playmakers. And that would be the in vain of any other team in the league would love to have three guys like that controlling their defense at each level.
All right. Well, you want to get to some of the offense here and start it off with just, I mean, I'm gonna put it on this slide here, but Canales is gone, right? Like, how do you feel about him leaving to a division opponent, Liam Cohen coming in? What do you think that's going to look like? What changes are you expecting with that?
So I like Canales a lot. We actually kind of formed a relationship off the field, and he's a great guy. But there was things that he had to go through.
Did you read his book?
I did read his book. Yep, I did. It's a very good book. It's very respectable and very commendable for him and his wife to be as open as they were about something like that. And if you've ever gone through that, had those issues, or know someone who's had those issues, I highly recommend it. It's eye-opening, and it kind of makes you take a look inside about your marriage and what you're really seeking and what you really want for it. But it
was one of those stories that was like national media probably would have never even noticed it, brought it up, and then you get a head coaching job, and it's like,
Right.
oh,
And people want to make fun of it and this and that. But kudos to them. Everyone copes in their own way and gets over it. And if they can help people with their story, absolutely more power to them. And hopefully it has helped people. Hopefully it will continue to help people. But great guy, positive guy. But there are things he had to go through, right? Like he's first time play caller. And there were some struggles and growing pains there. First time running an offense, you kind of look, Pete Carroll kind of he's been there for 12 years. He brought in this guy, he brought in Shane Waldron, he brought in, continued to bring in guys and didn't elevate him, which led to his experience, but also there was some inexperience there. And that kind of showed through last year. And you finally started to see everything kind of get going towards the end of the season. The run game started getting better. The passing game started getting better. The play calling started getting better. So I think those experiences will help him in Carolina. I don't think they're going to be the worst team in football. I think Bryce Young is going to have.
No, they won't be the worst team in football.
No, I think Bryce Young will definitely have a bounce back season where, Stroud has already got the leg up, right? But I don't think it's going to be as large as what people are talking about this rookie season. I think he'll bounce back. But with Liam coming in, it's, Canales was running a branch of the McVay tree, right? It was a branch off a branch. McVay had Shane Waldron, who went to Seattle, where Dave Canales was, and Dave brought Shane Waldron's offense with a mix of Schottenheimer and Pete Carroll and Darrell Bevel. And this is a root. Like they cut a root off the stem. Like this was McVay's offensive coordinator. Now he's got some own things that he's going to do, and obviously spent time at Kentucky as well. But has experience calling plays. He has experience in running the offense as a coordinator. He has experience getting all of his guys, his coaches and stuff to teach the way he wants them to teach and get his message across. And brought some of those guys like a Carberry with him. The offensive line coach and stuff. So, going into it, they're already at an advantage. And I think one of the things I talked to him on the podcast and I asked him, like, you guys installed a lot. You talked to some of these rookies and even Sterling Shepard and, their heads were spinning when they were getting the playbook and the installs, and Mayfield and Rashad White were like, it's tough, because they're front loading so much stuff. But, it helps them when they come back in and they get to feel more comfortable about what's going on. And Baker's going to have so many different cans and opportunities to check into different things. And again, it's a very similar offense. Terminology is different, but a lot of motion, a lot of movement at the snap, orbit motions. There's going to be a ton of different things that they didn't do last year that they're going to incorporate this year. And I think the biggest thing is when you're going from like a power duo gap running scheme to a zone, wide zone, mid zone, it's kind of night and day a little bit there. There's different aspects of that. And this Bucs team was kind of like thrown into, okay, this is what we're learning now after you were doing some of these. And it took them a while to gel. And even when I talked to Dave, he said, when we taught this in Seattle, when Shane came in, it took about a half a season for the offensive line, the running back, everyone to kind of get on the same page on what we want to do the run game. So it's not that learning curve for them. You look at Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich offense was very outdated. And now they're more in this modern offense that half the league is running. They have a year in it, and now they're kind of building up what they were installed last year, different terminology, different plays, different philosophies. And one thing I like about Cohen is for him, at the root of his philosophy is players over plays. He's not going to overthink stuff. Okay, what does this situation call for? Well, to do this is no. Get the ball to Mike Evans. What are we doing? Third down? Hit Chris Godwin on a crosser on the outside. Like that's what this guy does.
Just call the old man's L play. It's always a good play.
Right. Just, go to the Buick, bro. Like
yeah.
So I think that's the thing. And the guys have really bought in. They like Canales a lot, but the guys are really excited. They really bought in to what he's doing here. And I think you're going to see an improvement in this offense, especially with Baker kind of coming in and having He's always going to have a chip on his shoulder. He'll find a way. You guys watched him at Texas Tech. He'll find a way to put a chip on there, but having the ability to just kind of sit back and not worry about, okay, if this doesn't work out, I'm a career backup. He's got a contract. He's got a kid. He's got something extra to play for, which always drives you and motivates you. And I think, with him at the helm, it's going to be the national media will never give the Bucs love. We talked about Levante David. We'll talk about Mike Evans here soon. Talk about some of these other guys. They're back at it again this year, predicting them to not do well. And I think they're going to have egg all over their face all again.
Yeah, I
Jay,
think Baker gets.
What did we
so
say
much.
about Baker going into last year?
Oh yeah, never bet against the Baker scoring ever. I think Baker gets some of the most disrespect in the history of the league. We're talking about a man who's won a playoff game for the Browns and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
The Browns, not to interrupt you, but the Browns too. Remember, they were a Chad Henne slide away from going to the AFC Championship game. If that defense could have stopped Chad Henne on that, what was it, fourth down conversion, they're going to the AFC Championship game. And Baker's now looked at this different quarterback, and maybe he doesn't get hurt the next year, And now he's a franchise guy in Cleveland. Like so many different.
How many people in the history of the league have won a playoff game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Not a very long list. And then you look at the same for this version of the Cleveland Browns, not the 40s Browns, not the Browns that are in Baltimore, but this actual Cleveland Browns. How many quarterbacks have won a playoff game there? He's done it both places. Two of the league's pariahs, and still doesn't get any respect.
After Tom Brady, I don't know if you can call the Bucs the league pariah anymore,
historically, though.
Before Brady came, the Buccaneers had the lowest winning percentage of all four major sports in America. The lowest winning percentage. Tom Brady changed that over the course of 3 years, and Baker just carried it on last year.
This is usually where I'd say a joke about the Lions, but I can't use it anymore.
Can't.
If the Lions ended the joke, it's over.
Who are you picking a fight, lion or a bear?
Well, I'm biased.
Is Dan Campbell the lion?
No, I'm picking a tiger over both of them, so it's all good. It'd be really cool looking like Marshall.
A lion, a tiger, a bear, Dan Campbell?
Dan Campbell's going to bite the kneecaps. It's over.
All right. Let's get to some of these weapons here. So in the running back room, how do you expect Rachaad White to be the bell cow here this year, or is Bucky Irving going to eat into those, or even a guy like Chase Edmonds or Sean Tucker?
Bucky's going to eat into it. I think Chase will be like that third down back type role. He's kind of sidelined right now. But one thing, first day of camp, I looked at, you go on my my breakdown, and he impressed like crazy. Like his burst, and he was banged up last year, but when he was healthy, Chase Edmonds got this burst where he's just boom gone for 15 yards, and it's like, where did that come from? And his pass protection is probably the strongest on the team as well. Rachaad White's very good in pass protection, and Bucky's kind of he's getting good at it. But pads come on, so that's going to determine how much he plays. Sean Tucker was not good at it last year. That's why he was an RB2 coming in based on skill, and quickly RB inactive based on pass protection. But Chase had this play where Antoine was coming around the end, and KJ Britt was coming up the middle, and Baker had no time to get rid of the ball, and would have been decimated if it was a real game, if it wasn't for Chase picking up the pass protection. But Rashaad's going to be the guy. I mean, he really came on towards the end of the year, finished 10 yards shy of 1,000 yards. I think was fourth in the league for running back and all-purpose yards. And towards the end of the season, he had more. It was him and Christian McCaffrey would outdo each other every week the last 7 or 8 games of the season.
That's good company.
Yeah, I mean, he can run the ball, he can catch the ball, he's good at pass blocking. He's good in space. You get the ball in his hand in space, especially as a receiver. For him, they just need a little more violence out of his running style, and that's something that Cohen has challenged him to do. Is just kind of be a more violent runner. Don't be so patient. One of the guys he's looked up to is Le'Veon Bell, and everyone wants to dance like Le'Veon Bell, but nobody can. So, kind of you see hole, hit hole, boom, go, kind of lower your shoulder, take that contact and go. But, Bucky Irving had the second most missed tackles in NCAA last year. And he's a guy who is slippery when wet. We haven't really been able to
not believe his athletic testing. Like, I was like, that is not the tape. That is just not the tape.
You know what?
I like Bucky Irving a lot. Yeah.
You take Bucky Irving and Braylon Allen and switch their tape up.
Yeah.
That's how they should be playing. Braylon Allen's this big back and, he's getting tackled and just like, not running over. And Bucky Irving's out here making people break their ankles, multiple people on a play. But he's going to get some run for sure. It's tough to kind of gauge his special talent, which is making missed tackles. When you're not practicing that, it can't. But he can catch, he can run, and he'll definitely have a role in this offense too. But this is still Rachaad White's backfield, and he's going to I think he goes out there and cements himself as one of the top, young running backs in the league this year. Over 1,000 yards, probably around 500 to 600 yards receiving, 10 total touchdowns, 50, 60 receptions. Wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for me. 1,300 yards rushing on the ground. I think the run game's going to be much better this year with the pieces they brought in. And a Graham Barton, we'll talk about that. Cody Moak in his second year. The run game, the left guard, Trishan with a full year at left tackle and stuff like that. So I think Rachaad White is if you're playing fantasy, he's a guy that might get passed on by people. He's there in the third round, scoop him up without hesitation.
Third round.
Yeah.
Okay.
If he's gonna get the touches you're saying, I buy it. Like it's hard to find a back with that reliable touches.
League and he's there on the turnaround, and you're at pick 20. What is it? 12 team 23. I take him at 23 on the turnaround before the other guy can get him at 24 and 25.
That's Jahmyr Gibbs territory. So looking at this wide receivers room, can we just take a moment of silence for Mike Evans' greatness?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. He is so phenomenal. He has carried quarterbacks all the way from college up until now.
Leave Mike Glennon out of this.
Do what?
Leave Mike Glennon out of this.
that was more of a shot at Johnny. But we're talking about a dude.
Did the Bears pay Mike Glennon a bunch of money?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
They paid him like $18 million or something.
They love him some Mike Glennon.
Crazy.
I hope.
Well, luckily
Mike
they drafted
Evans got
Mitchell.
a nice gift from Mike Glennon after that.
Luckily they drafted Mitchell Trubisky, and all their quarterback woes went away.
Wait, that was before or after Pat? Oh, before.
Same time.
Same draft, right? Sorry, we're picking up enough. Go ahead.
No, that's what a lot of people don't. A lot of people forget that Mitch Trubisky and Patrick Mahomes were in the same draft, and then Pat Mahomes went 7 picks after. It's crazy that never gets talked about.
Yeah.
You boys clearly never watched a primetime Bears game because it's all that's talked about.
I didn't know the Bears played primetime games.
Oh,
they
don't. That's fine.
Hopefully soon.
So Mike Evans,
Mike Evans.
10 straight seasons of 1,000 yards. And the thing that's more impressive about Mike now is when he came in, he joked around, the 240-pound rookie wide receiver, fat little guy, and now he's learned from Tom, but also learned throughout, his own trainers and staff is about taking care of your body and longevity. And that's a huge part of what he does and how he maintains his regimen and off-season workout. And he looks in better shape. I mean, I feel like I say it every last 3 years. He looks better shape each year. But it's allowing him to do more. He's playing more in the slot. He's getting in motion more. He's still playing that, quintessential X position for him on the outside. But there's so much that he can do. And he's just kind of each year kind of stepping up his game a little bit more and more. Led the league, tied the league for the league lead in touchdowns. He gets it last year. He gets 1,000 yards this year. He ties Jerry Rice for the most
consecutive seasons.
consecutive seasons of 1,000 yards. And
like double-digit touchdowns 3 of the last 4 years is freaking ludicrous. Like that
and
is
he's getting drafted like
unheard
the
of.
4th, 5th round in fantasy. It makes no sense to
Oh
me.
yeah, I took him in every league. I took
year.
him in every league last year. Yeah, it was like
Except for
Oh,
maybe
Mike
the one
Evans
in
bunker games, but like the games that he does go off, he goes off. But
I mean,
think,
he's 8 catches for like 109 yards and a touchdown almost every week.
it's perfect, But I think, and you mentioned the quarterbacks he did it with. I think Mike's in for another good season. So far, the chemistry has been right there with him and Baker. And Baker, I don't know if we moved on from Baker, but I'm going to bring it back to him. His ball
We never move on from Baker.
His ball placement so far has been phenomenal. There's been some throws where I mentioned the one to Chris Godwin early on. There was a throw with Zion McCollum was in perfect coverage. Like you can't get better coverage than that. Baker just threw it right where Mike can get it perfectly placed for him to pick up a first down on a third down. He's had a couple, they're all going to have a couple. He had an Hail Mary interception, if you count those on 2-minute drill, with time running out. I don't count stuff like that, but for the most part, hitting Trey Palmer in stride, who we'll talk about in a minute. But I think Baker, and you kind of see right here, we talked about this, never had 2 strong seasons in a row. I think that's going to change. You look at how many head coaches he's had, how many offensive coordinators he had. Look at what he came into with the Browns, when they finally
I don't think that's as much as a career trend as just look at the situational things that happen. Like it was never like, oh, Baker's good, now he sucks. It was like, oh, new head coach. Oh, Freddie from the kitchen.
Jackson. Now Hugh Jackson's fired. Now Greg Williams is guy. Now Freddie Kitchens. Now Freddie Kitchens gone. Kevin Stefanski's in. Oh wow, Baker. This is what Baker could look like. Wow, 2020. They're going to the playoffs. They're they're about to win.
Let's go get Deshaun Watson now.
Right, and then he gets injured and plays through injuries because he's a team first guy when he probably should have shut it down. And then let's get Deshaun Watson. Let's trade him to Carolina where it's not a scheme fit at all. We'll partner him with Sam Darnold, and then he goes to gets cut, goes to LA. LA
plays on 48 hours notice.
Comes to Tampa last year
across the country in LA.
Brings him 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes away from the NFC Championship game in his first year on a $4 million contract. I think
it beats the previous year's Super Bowl appearers.
Right. So I think the narrative around Baker, I think people are starting to kind of, I don't know. He's a guy that, people like to kind of dog on. Remember the whole, what is it? Hat backwards in the interview and Colin Cowherd.
Colin Cowherd being a douche.
But, I think for Baker, I've seen someone who's been very humbled by this experience, someone who hasn't lost his swagger at all by it, but understands that, hey, I had it all. I had it by the balls here. Heisman Trophy winner, first number 1 overall pick, coming in the league, the commercials, the deals, the Baker's house, this. And I saw that get taken away.
From Baker was just never he was just every commercial was just Baker Mayfield.
Right. And I found out how quickly all that can get taken away from me. And I think now, especially having a baby, again, that puts things into
seeing aliens on his way home from dinner.
Yeah, seeing aliens, that puts stuff into perspective. And I think this Baker has matured. I think
he's no longer a Texas resident. He moved to Florida full time.
That's true as well. So he's got some Florida man in him now.
A Baker scorn mixed with Florida man energy might be talking MVP.
Yeah, I've seen gators in the back pool outside a training facility. It would not surprise me if he went back there and wrestled one. So I don't know, but no, I think
I want my quarterback
around Baker. I think the narrative around Baker will change this year after he has another successful season, and we can kind of move on from that 2 years, never not consistent, inconsistent, stuff like that. Yeah. But so, Chris Godwin. Holy shit! It's a cat.
It's a cat.
Chris Godwin.
Go ahead.
Chris Godwin's going to be a big part of that too. And talking to Liam Cohen, it's not just Mike. Mike has been there, but it's allowed Chris to do so well. The only tandem that's had 3 consecutive years of 1,000 yards receiving. And I think Godwin, played the outside last year a little bit, and it kind of threw him out of whack. He's better suited in the slot. And one thing that Cohen's going to do is have him more in that slot position and call it his role Cooper Kupp-esque. And Godwin was dealing with a torn ACL, kind of recovered, the year prior, and last year there were moments where you looked at him and were like, the separation just isn't there, but it started to come towards the end of the season, and now you kind of really see it. He's a clutch go-to guy on third down, and I think the combination between Evans and Godwin is really going to show up this season with another year with Baker and the chemistry and continuity.
Yeah, and then so behind those two guys, I feel like you got Godwin, you got Evans on the field. You just feel good about that combo you have there. But Godwin has really excelled in the slot. But to be in the slot, you're typically talking 11 personnel. So who's the other outside guy here? Is it Trey Palmer, or are we seeing some competition for that spot? And where does Jalen McMillan fit in?
So, yeah, that's the competition that's going on right now. And the fun thing about that is I talked to Cohen, and from my opinion prior to speaking with him, I didn't think it was going to be a true – you'll have your depth chart number 3, but I didn't think it was going to be a true number 3 because both of them offer different things that can help you win games. Trey Palmer's got that incredible speed, and can beat guys deep. So if you're playing a team that does heavy man coverage, maybe it's Trey Palmer you want out there to kind of draw these guys off, maybe try some deep shots, get some, make them respect the deep ball with Trey Palmer. Of course, Mike Evans can do it too, but Mike Evans doesn't have the game-changing speed that Trey Palmer does. We saw that in the Eagles game last year. And then with Jalen McMillan, he's a very polished receiver product. And everyone you talk to at camp, receivers, defensive backs, they all say the same thing. He's like a veteran out there. He's very savvy. He kind of just knows what to do. He's in the right place at the right time, specifically when they're playing zone. Like, he finds the spots in zone and knows where to sit down in them. And he's been one of Baker's go-to targets. And that's nothing against Trey Palmer. He just makes it very easy to throw, to find the ball. He's got strong hands. He had another touchdown tonight in practice. He's been just kind of been a touchdown machine so far, and it's easy to get hyped on him. One of the biggest things that kind of really need to see when they do joint practices and in preseason is he's had troubles getting off the jam. So, when they get a little bit more physical against another team, that's what I'm looking forward to. But I think with Palmer and McMillan, you're going to have a really fantastic duo there. And then behind them, Devin Tompkins no longer on the team. He's on with Carolina. When
did that happen?
Well, there was allegations from his ex-wife about abuse, and he got injured. The Bucs waived him with an injury, and then he got injury settlement, got cleared, and he signed with Carolina back with. Hi,
yeah,
I love you too very much. But I'm in the middle of recording right now, so I will see you in a little bit. But
full disclosure with these graphics, I make them a month and a half ago.
Yeah, don't worry.
We're doing these each week, so sometimes stuff falls through the cracks there.
No worries at all. So Sterling Shepard and Raheem Jarrett right there. They're in that battle for that 5th, 6th spot. Ryan Miller has actually looked really well. He's got some time run with the ones as well. So he's a name that I would kind of look at as a dark horse. And then another dark horse guy is Cameron Johnson. He's out of Barton College, little Barton College, and undrafted free agent this year. But he's bigger than Tompkins, slightly. But he's fast, he's quick, he's in and out. He looks like probably a special teams return type guy. So it kind of comes down to those 4 for those last 2 spots. Shepard's looked really well, kind of having that resurgence, playing with Baker again from their time in Oklahoma, has scored touchdowns in almost every practice after the first practice.
I feel like Sterling Shepard has never really got a very good opportunity in the NFL, being on the Giants and then injuries and everything else. Like, I think he can definitely carve out a spot. It's hard with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans on your team, but
right.
I think he still has a lot left in him, and I'm excited to see what he can do in this offense if he gets looks. But it's a loaded room, so
right. And he's at times he's looked like the best, the 3rd best receiver on the roster. But it also comes down to you're not moving off Palmer, you're not moving off Palmer or McMillan. So that 5th, 6th spot, you got to play special teams. Is he going to play special teams with this new kickoff rule? Do you need a wide receiver? Can you use a different position there? So I mean, that's gonna be something to watch. I think he's in a competition. Him, Sterling Shepard, Raheem Jarrett, Ryan Miller, Cam Johnson are all in that competition for that final spot. And then he moved to tight end, and again, it's one of these things where he just wants love. It's one of these things where Cade Otton played 98% of the snaps last year. That can't happen again. Like you can't have your guy playing all the snaps. So someone needs to step up from that position group there. Payne Durham is the likeliest guy to take that step up in his second year. Drafted him out of 5th round in Purdue, was a touchdown machine there. I think he had like 24 touchdowns over his course of his career, maybe 25, in fact. But Cade,
I mean, these names all scream Hall of Fame tight end. Cade Otton, Kokef, Payne Durham especially, but then Devin Culp too. Like that, David Wells. I just think about the Yankees pitcher, but like Devin Culp too. They're all great tight end names.
If you Google Payne Durham and look at the images, there's a picture of him. I don't know if you guys are into wrestling at all, but he looks like Karrion Kross. He's got like, it's completely badass picture of him. He's got.
I try to watch the pay-per-views at least.
It's really good. It's a really good. But I think Cade Otton is ready to take that ascent into top 15 tier. I think he's right outside right now. His blocking really came along towards the end of the season. Finished just under 500 yards, just under 50 receptions, 4 touchdowns last year. I think he's a guy who's getting ready to take that next step. He's not super flashy, but he makes the tough catches, makes the hard grabs, and does everything right. Keith is more of a blocking specialist. He's in a battle right now with a guy like Devin Culp, who's more of that move tight end, fastest tight end in the combine. Showed that speed off yesterday at practice where he took a seam, just free release. Can't give this guy a free release. I tell you, he's going to beat you every time. Took the route down the seam and was boom, gone for the touchdown. So I think they're kind of in a battle. David Wells, de facto number 2, quickly fell out of favor and onto the practice squad last year. He's kind of competing for that spot. And, Keith is an interesting guy because he's more that blocking specialist, does really well on special teams. Coincidentally enough, the first 2 passes of 2023 were to Keith, both incomplete passes, but he did catch a touchdown. He had 1 catch for a touchdown last season. So it's like they're going to more of these 3 sets, as you mentioned. There's not as many 2 tight end sets. There still will be some, but can he warrant a roster spot on someone who's a adequate blocker and special teamer, or do you want someone who can kind of give you a different element on offense than Devin Culp? So I think that's going to be the competition there. Keith does not get picked up, I think. So I don't think he comes back to the practice squad. Someone will pick him up for his special teams at least and blocking and kind of develop him. But it should be a solid offensive skill position group led by Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. The depth here is what's scary. You talk about the depth on the defensive side. We went in depth on it. In depth here is no one. Cade Otton gets injured. You're dealing with Payne Durham. Like, good luck. I like Payne. I think he's got a high chance to make an impact year 2, but not as a starter. Chris Godwin, I think you can find replacement snaps for. Mike Evans, forget about it. Like, who's going to replace Mike? Nobody. Right. On the roster, I should say. Can Bucky take over a full load his rookie year if Rachaad White goes down? Especially Chase Edmonds was injured a lot last year, already injured now. Sean Tucker, don't know what you're getting. I think the best depth you have is either A, behind Chris Godwin, because I think Trey Palmer, I think you can trot out Mike Evans, Trey Palmer, and Jalen McMillan and be fine. Or it's Kyle Trask, to be honest with you. I think that's their best depth is behind Godwin and behind Trask. I mean, Baker, because I think Trask can give you meaningful game.
You like Kyle Trask?
I don't love him, but I think if you
need him for backup quarterbacks go,
if you need him for 4 games, I think you can get by with 4 games and go 2-2 with him.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
I think if you lose Chris Godwin with Trey
I
Palmer,
feel like that's about as much as you could ask for out of a backup quarterback. So
right, I think if you lose Chris Godwin and for 4 games you got Trey Palmer and Jalen McMillan, you can go 3-1 with them. They're not obviously controlling the ball, but I think you can get by with those guys. If you lose Mike Evans, like, good luck. 0-4.
Yeah. I swear to God, though, Cade Otton, I would have thought he was an all-pro because every time I would turn on a Bucs game for to watch Mike Evans or to see Rashad White or see what's going on. It was always just the K. Dotton show, and it just drove me crazy.
Yeah, he's a good young tight end. He's certainly a good. Like I said, he's like 16, 17 maybe right now.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of good tight ends in the league. I mean,
it's not obviously as a Bears fan. This is like Cole Kmet was a top maybe 16 tight end his second year. Like top 20 for sure, but that 15 territory was questionable. But it's like it took 3 to 4 years for him to enter that kind of top 10 territory.
And rarely
like
guys come out
a similar football player.
I mean,
tight end's one of those slow developing positions too. I mean, outside of like your Sam Laportas, but it's like most of the time it takes guys a while.
I mean, you name the top 5 tight ends, and it's like, all right, you got Kittle, you got Andrews, you got Kelsey,
Jason Ferguson.
Is it Jason? Like then it gets crazy there. You got those 3. Is Hopkins in there? Is Laporta in there? Is Ferguson in there? Do you put a guy like Kmet in? Like who goes? Evan Ingram, is he in there? Dalton Schultz. Dalton.
It's so offense specific. Like, what do you want your tight end to do? Is going to play a big factor in that.
So you've got 3 strong. Darren Waller was in there before he sucked last year.
The
rapper.
The rapper, Darren Waller, yeah. But no, I mean, you look at, tight end is a position where you've got 4 or 5 top guys in the league at a time, and the rest of them are all either good, mediocre to, whatever. So I think he's making his way into that good category where
OJ Howard.
It could have been if it wasn't for that Achilles and a bad offense that didn't know how to utilize him properly.
All right. Well, let's get a little bit to these blockers before we finish the offense out. And I mean, starting out, you talked a little bit about Tristan Wirfs already, a guy who, I don't think he made All-Pro last year. Maybe he was second team, but like a guy who was an All-Pro caliber player on either side of the line, like left tackle, right tackle. He proved last year he can play both sides
hit the open market
extremely well.
No, he's going to get locked up. He's going to reset the market probably around $29 million a year. I think probably around 80 something guaranteed.
Are you breaking news right now?
I'm not breaking news, but it's going to happen any day now. There's some hangups.
Who gets signed first, Tristan Wirfs or CeeDee Lamb?
Tristan Wirfs.
Oh,
CD. My boy Ricky's on CD already.
I think Tristan Wirfs gets something done by, let's say they got tomorrow off, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday practice, Sunday they have off, Monday they start Cincinnati week. I think something's done by Monday morning with Tristan Wirfs.
Okay.
I think the hang up here is 4 to 5. 4 to 5, how much is guaranteed? We know it's going to be somewhere between 29 and 30 because he's resetting the market. But I'm sure Tristan, or at least his agents, would like a 4-year deal so he can test the market again at 29 years old, where the team is probably want 5 years to stretch out the cap hit a little bit here. And I'm sure it's kind of the guaranteed what's guaranteed. But no, Tristan made that switch from right tackle to left tackle. Had some rough spots last season, but still one of the best tackles in the league, top 3 tackles in the league. I don't understand where all this Penei Sewell love is coming from. Very good tackle.
Phenomenal.
Very good tackle. But if Tristan Wirfs was still at right tackle last year and wasn't forced to move to left tackle, it would be Tristan Wirfs over Penei Sewell. That's how good Tristan Wirfs was at right tackle. Not allowing.
I'll agree to disagree on that one, but
you think Penei Sewell is better than Tristan Wirfs?
Yes,
you do.
For the offense they run, I definitely think so because I think he is such a difference maker as a run blocker, and that offense is all about hit. It is so heavily based on his ability to just destroy people in the run game.
I don't know. I don't think the offensive line in Detroit gets better if you add Tristan Wirfs and replace Penei Sewell, to where I think it gets worse. And if you did the same thing with Tampa and moved Penei Sewell to Tampa and took Tristan Wirfs out of the equation, I think it stays at the same. I love Tristan Wirfs, but I think Penei Sewell's a top 5 player in the league right now.
See, I think Tristan Wirfs is just as dominant. I think there was some hiccups moving to left tackle, but he was still a dominant player.
Oh yeah, he's phenomenal.
And if he was,
I'm not going to argue about
tackle,
greatness.
no, but if he was at right tackle still, I think he would be better.
Yeah.
To me, I think Wirfs is a better pass protector than Sewell, but I just think Sewell is so important to that rushing offense in Detroit and such a key man there.
I'm trying to find the stats there since they came in. Tristan Wirfs was like the highest number. He was ranked the number 2 tackle ahead of Penei Sewell by PFF. Of course, Trent Williams leads the way there. No shocker. But there was a stat that came out.
Sure, Williams getting old.
He's getting old, but he's still phenomenal.
Yeah.
So phenomenal. But other there, we're splitting hairs. They're both incredible tackles. I just think
I'd say they're both top 3 tackles in the NFL. So like it's
right.
Moot.
I think Tristan would have got the All-Pro nod, would have got that kind of consideration, would it have been a Pro Bowl backup or alternate rather, had he stayed at right tackle, just my opinion. But speaking of right tackle, the guy they have at right tackle, Luke Gedeke, played there at college, has shorter arms than most people would desire at the position, played left guard his rookie year. They tried to move him over there, moved him back to right tackle last year, quietly finished as a top 25 tackle in the league, regardless of size, and has continued to got better throughout this offseason, added some muscle, just kind of understands the position now, locked up your boy Aiden Hutchinson in that first meeting between Detroit, kind of put him in check there in the second meeting as well.
What is Aiden Hutchinson, our boy? Defensive player of the year.
Even you know what I'm saying. So,
dude learned how to run block last year, man, and maybe that was just the move to tackle. But man, that run blocking as a rookie was not pretty. I was very impressed by the growth that he had there last year. Like he really stepped up.
Just in school, you're screwed. Like just straight up. Like he's a swing tackle, but he's been getting eaten alive. And maybe it's just Yaya's so good because he's eaten Tristan a few times. But like he's just been getting eaten alive. They got another couple guys there. Brandon Walton, who's kind of like their ultimate utility man there. He can play guard, center, tackle. He's been playing some right, left tackle, and he's done pretty well this offseason. But you move to the interior, and that's where there's some fun stuff going on there. Cody Mock comes into year 2 at right guard after playing.
Cody Mock, the
North Dakota State.
North Dakota.
No, I know who he is. If you Google if you look up offensive lineman in the dictionary, can it just be a picture of Cody Mock?
Long red hair, yeah, that's Cody Mock. Yeah,
he should just be like the poster for like offensive line.
Yeah, so
there's
just
nobody
him and Quinn Miners back to back.
Yeah,
Quinn Miners. I loved Quinn Miners coming out.
Just the two of them together.
Instead, they could have been on the same line.
Guard, they're the definition.
Yeah, so I think Cody, he's gotten bigger, stronger. Again, I talked about it, specifically with offensive, defensive line. I think that experience in an off-season program where you're kind of getting all the workouts and the nutrition and all that stuff and really focusing on your craft, I think it's going to help him tremendously. He struggled at times mightily, but one thing that always stood out to him was his recovery. He had a great recovery when you watch the film. If he got beat, it wasn't some of the plays he got beat on that allowed sacks too is kind of Baker kind of baking himself into a sack, which he can do at times.
Baker.
Yeah.
Usually when I saw him get beat, it was a strength issue. And and you knew coming into last year, he needed to beef up and it wasn't going to happen until his first off season.
Right. And I think him working with Gedeke too, they understand, okay, this is where, I can give up a little bit. This is where he's going to give it. So I think that's really, going to be instrumental for them. You kind of look at Robert Hainsey's most likely the backup center. There's a competition for left guard between Ben Bredesen and Sua Opeta. Hainsey's not taking part of that at all. So it kind of, I think, reserves him to most likely the backup center because they drafted Graham Barton in the first round. He's likely to win that job. They've been alternating snaps throughout camp. One series on 11-11 will be one of them. Next will be them. But I talked to Cohen, and Cohen wants to have this squared out by Cincy week, which is next, not this week coming up. Well, this is this week coming up. So we've got about 3 more padded practices to go to kind of figure out who they want to start working in that more consistently with those ones. And I think that's going to be Graham Barton. You drafted him high. his athleticism off the charts. He's big, which is what they want to get bigger up the middle so they can have more success in the run game, pass blocking. So that's going to put Hainsey pigeonholed because, backup center is valuable. Bucks learned that the hard way with Jensen going down. Bredesen and Opeta have been interesting. They've been rotating the same way, but I think Bredesen has the upper hand just because he's performed better in zone. And Opeta's comes from more of like that power scheme, and they really like Bredesen's ability to get out in front and in pulls and stuff like that. But ultimately, I kind of put the formidable, who's going to be, what's going to push the one over the edge. And, Cohen said it's going to, whoever the better run blocker is. And so far it's kind of hard. We're only 2 days in practice with pads. It's kind of hard to pin who that's going to be, but they'll continue to split until something happens. Unfortunately, actually, Opeta got injured in tonight's practice. Looked like a knee injury. Not really sure what it is. I don't know if we have an update. I've been doing this podcast, but once we have an update, we'll know from there. But if it's any experience, any expected amount of time missed, that's going to give Bredesen the leg up, and he'll probably secure that competition. I think he will anyways, but gives them great depth, with Hainsey and Opeta there all along the line with a guy like Brandon Walton, who I mentioned as well, and Elijah Klein, who 6th round pick out of UTEP. He was like a 7th-year senior. But man, this kid is impressive. I tell you, he didn't test well, but one of the first thing I noticed about him at rookie minicamp, and I brought this up to Cohen, was his get off. Like, he was keeping up with Graham Barton, who tested as the most athletic center to ever come out of the combine since like 1979 when they started doing the testing. And if you switch the Barton to guard, it's the second best, So he's keeping up with him right away. And I mentioned that to Cohen. He's like, that's one of the things that our coaches kind of looked at first when we got him in here, was his get off is quicker than I thought. And he just packs a powerful punch. He's got a very strong understanding of all run schemes. And he actually taught himself the UTEP playbook as a freshman within 2 days in his dorm room with flashcards, and taught himself zone blocking schemes. So he's one of these guys who it's going to be interesting to see how they construct the roster. But I could easily see him making it over somebody initially, because they don't want to get him, they don't want to put him out to waivers. And then kind of doing the swap and bait, maybe put him on the practice squad, or maybe he stays on the active roster. And they just decide to keep 10 linemen because he's got a bright future and potentially could be that left guard of the future once Bredesen and Opeta move on and Hainsey move on next year. So the line looks like there's some bright spots. Obviously, the tackles, you're good. The interior, there's some question marks. I think you feel comfortable with Cody Mock going into his second season. Graham Barton is a rookie, but I mean, as projections go, he should be pretty good. And then, you're never going to have all pros all across the line. I think left guard will be the weakest spot on the team. But they should be able to get things going. But, I think there's more optimism for the defense than the offense, and certainly more depth there other than that interior offensive line. You get an injury to Gedeke or Wirfs, you're screwed. The season's gone.
Now, say that you get an injury to Cody Mock. Do you foresee a situation where Barton kicks over to guard and Hainsey goes in at center?
So in my opinion, personal opinion, I think the best combination of the line is Barton at left guard, to be honest with you, and Hainsey at center. They want to get bigger at center. That's where they would really like to get bigger at center. But for me, I think if you're looking for the best five, it's Barton at left guard, Hainsey at center, Cody at right guard. But yeah, they've got some guys who have versatility that they can move guys around, and if they need to move Barton over to right guard, if they need to move Barton over to left guard and Hainsey back at center, or remember Ben Bredesen played a majority of the season last year at center. They have that opportunity as well. Brandon Walton is that ultimate utility man who can play along across the line and at tackle guard and has taken snaps at center. So that interior has a lot of flexibility, I think, in there if someone gets injured or something's just not working and they need to make a switch.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a lot of versatility there. Outside, it's the Mike Evans, it's the Rashad White situation on offense. There's just no And School's played good snaps in the league for San Francisco, similar style, run scheme and pass blocking scheme. But I mean, you lose Tristan or Gedeke for a long period of time, and you're starting to lose some games at that point because of that.
Yeah. Now, ultimately, like, big picture for this team, we got these odds down lower left-hand corner. What do you think there's value in within these bets? The over is really low here. Is that
Over.
poor odds?
Hammer that over.
Yeah.
How many games are we winning?
Run to your bookie and hammer the over right now. You're going to get paid. What'd you say?
How many games were we winning on this team?
It's something I'm not completely comfortable giving a win-loss. I need to see a little bit more. I need to see some preseason stuff like that.
Well, you said a hammer over 7.5, so at least 8.
Over 7.5. So I don't think they lose. I think their floor is probably 9.
9 wins.
9
floor.
Wins schedule. I think 9 wins. 8 to 9 wins. I think they definitely hit the over. I just see they've got some tough opponents, but they've got some very winnable games. This is like the epitome of a team. I feel like. Now I was around.
So you don't have a whole lot of respect for this division. I'm assuming.
I mean, Carolina, I think, is 2 wins. Carolina's 2 wins. Show me
what Carolina wasn't going to be the worst team in the league. You think there's going to be a worse team than 2 wins?
No, I think Carolina is going to be 2 easy wins.
2 wins for Tampa.
Yeah, okay. I don't see.
I thought you were saying 2 wins as a team.
No. I don't see where the Saints got better. In fact, I see spots where they got worse. They just lost Ryan Ramczyk for the year. Alvin Kamara is still not reporting, and he hasn't been Alvin Kamara, quite frankly, for a couple seasons now.
But Derek Carr.
And they got Derek Carr, right? And they don't have Jameis to bail him out. So, I don't see a situation where they've gotten better. Falcons are the darling right now.
Dirty Birds.
Because they got Kirk Cousins, but that defense still has issues. There's still some issues on the offensive line. While they've got some outstanding players, their weaknesses are their weaknesses. We got to see how they utilize their skill position players. Obviously, they got Drake London. They've got Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson. They made some other additions there, but the defense still kind of –
They sure do love their first-round picks.
Right. Gives me some pause here. Michael Penix Jr., who knows? He could be doing some Wildcat stuff. You never know. And then I look at some.
He's like 5 years away from retirement, so they got to get him in there pretty quick.
Right. You got the Giants on there. You got the Commanders on there. Yeah, sure. You've got some tough teams as well, like the Chiefs, the 49ers, the Lions, the Ravens. You're playing the Cowboys. You've got some tough teams there, but you've got some other pushovers. And I think, the Bucs aren't going to lose all those games to those upper teams and those top tier teams in the league. So I'm hovering around 11, 12 wins this season.
It's like pushing number 1 seed.
I'm hovering around there.
Okay.
I just, from what I've seen,
AFC champ or NFC champs, I should say, at 35-1.
I think they could make it to the NFC Championship game.
Ooh.
When I look at the NFC, I see the 49ers. Do the Packers take that step forward, right?
No.
Do the Cowboys finally get over the hump?
No.
They demolished the Eagles last year. What are they better with a couple rookies, at cornerback?
You got the Lions. Bears are going to be phenomenal.
Lions are going to be good. I think the Lions will be good. So I'm looking at 49ers, Lions. I mean, kind of looking around the landscape. I think Atlanta will be good, but I don't think they win division good.
I think it's going to be Atlanta wins the division. I think Tampa. I think 8-9 wins. If everything goes right, I think they can win 10 games.
Well, yeah, I think that's their ceiling. Like if everything goes right, I think it's like 11, 12 wins. I don't think that's there. I think their floor is 8. I think they probably land somewhere at 10, 9, 10. I think 10 is kind of where I have them. But I think if everything goes well, there's an opportunity for them to win 11 or 12 games.
Yeah. I think their floor is much lower. I think things can go wrong in a hurry here. But, yeah, I mean.
I think injuries is what is where you look at. Say if they get impacted with injuries at Wirfs, Gedeke, Evans, Otten,
Baker.
right? Baker.
Yeah.
I think you're in
This-
trouble. I think you can survive injuries on the defensive
This
side.
offense scares me when it comes to depth.
But it's scary. It should be pretty scary when it comes to performing though at full strength.
Yeah. No, very, very solid team. Yeah, I mean, I think the over is a good play here. It's minus 150, so you're letting a little bit of juice there. Playoff, I mean, if you like over 8 wins and you're saying hammer it, then you can get plus 150 on just making the playoffs in a 7-team playoff format for a conference.
Yeah, I think they make the playoffs easy.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's great value there. And if you're saying we can win 10 to 12 games here, assuming we stay healthy, I mean, 35-1 to win the NFC is pretty good value.
Yeah, again, I don't know if they win the NFC. I think NFC Championship game is
but just value wise, that's great value.
I think
if you win 12 games, you should have Super Bowl aspirations.
I think they win the division. I do. I think they're kind of right on the cusp here of potentially making some noise.
Yeah.
We've seen it.
Yeah, I think my favorite value pick here is win the division at plus 310 because I think they're the second best team in the division. If one thing happens to the Falcons, the Bucs instantly become the best team in the division.
It's definitely, I think it's definitely them, the Falcons.
What makes the Falcons the best team in the division? Because Kirk Cousins. I mean,
yeah, on paper, I'm saying with those receivers, Kirk Cousins. I don't love their defense.
Kirk Cousins,
but I think that on paper, and maybe it's a paper tiger.
Who's won more playoff games?
That's a bad argument. Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback than Baker, but I mean it's not by much.
Like I think both teams are close, and ultimately, if I think they're close and I'm getting plus 310 on win the division, I think that's the best value here, in my opinion.
See, for me, I don't see. I get Kirk Cousins, and I'm not taking anything away from him. I think he's a phenomenal quarterback. I just don't see how a guy coming off at his age, coming off an Achilles tear, learning a new offense or a variation of a new offense is head and shoulders above a team that's going for their 4th straight divisional title, 5th straight a playoff appearance.
Right. Well, and that's the difference between on paper and reality to me. That's one of the things where I'm saying if that goes wrong, then the Bucs are like a pretty clear favor for the division,
I think I can't remember who I have winning this division, honestly. So, I mean, I might actually agree with you. But, I mean, I do think.
And to be honest, if you can take away Drake London, they really don't have any other wide receivers out there. Darryl Mooney has not been anything that he was supposed to do. Rondell Moore was traded for peanuts. They signed James Washington, who's a veteran who is on his last legs. They got to figure out how
you can say Mooney hasn't been anything he was supposed to as a 5th round pick.
Well, I think
Mooney's been very good.
I think there's been aspirations and expectations for Mooney to take the next step, I think
that's just being a victim of Chicago media.
Yeah.
If Darnell Mooney was a Tampa Bay Buccaneer or Carolina Panther, or
I think he's a solid 2.
Yeah, like he would have been considered a lot better than he was, and then
I mean he had 2021 and he has not replicated anything close to that since then.
Oh,
he's put a wide receiver 3 numbers since.
I mean, look at who his quarterback was.
Right.
With multiple offensive coordinators
against Mike
Basically,
Evans.
I mean, so he was before the.
But he's not Mike Evans. Mike Evans is a first ballot Hall of Famer. We're not saying Darnell Mooney's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Before the injury in 22, Mooney was pacing 1,000 yards. So it's kind of, and then in 23, DJ Moore came in. Justin Fields couldn't play with 2 targets. He had one guy he was throwing to, and that was it. So, I think Mooney's getting a little more heat on that than he deserves. I think he's a solid number 2. I think if you're starting to put him above that, that's where you're getting delusion.
He's like Kadarius.
I think it's a low end number 2, high end number 3.
I mean, that's fine.
I think you can take him away. I think you can take. He's not a guy you can't take away.
No, I wouldn't say he is. I agree with you on that.
He is a weapon, though.
So yeah, I think it's gonna be a good. I hate the NFL put the Atlanta games early on in the season. I think you probably should have saved at least one of those for later on in the season, but apparently, the Saints and the Panthers to end out the year are more important. But I think Atlanta should have been slotted in one of those spots.
All right. Well, JC, thank you so much for jumping
Yeah,
on
man,
with
had a
us.
blast.
Can you tell everyone again where they can find your work, anything you want to push out there? The floor is yours.
Yeah, so you can find me, JC Allen NFL, on Twitter X. I'm a writer for SI Bucks Game Day. Find all of our content over there. I also host the Sick Pirate Parlay podcast on the Sick Podcast Network. Check out my previous guest, head coach Todd Bowles, offensive coordinator Liam Cohen. I got Jalen McMillan coming on this week, and I'll have more throughout the season in the off season. And that's pretty much where you can find me, where you can find my work, and all that fun stuff.
And whenever you see Baker next, tell him Texas Tech secretly still loves him.
I'll let him know.
All right. Thank you, JC.
Absolutely.
All right, Jay.
Right.
What do you say we get on to the next team here?
You want to look at the schedule real quick, or do you just want to hop right on?
No, let's. Thank you for stopping me. We got to look at the schedule here.
We had a gentleman earlier just biting at just wanting us to talk some Falcons, so I'm excited.
We're right on the cusp of it.
All right. So okay. So I just want to break down a little bit of what JC said here. He said best case scenario 12 wins. Do you see 12 wins here? Everything goes right.
I think you've got 10 here, and if they sweep the Falcons, it gets them to 11, and another against the Panthers 12. So yeah, I mean it's feasible.
It's feasible, and they're probably
love it, but it's feasible.
Yeah. So I mean, I love
which I think is what he was saying.
If
that's what he thinks best case is, like, then yeah, I can see that.
So some big time matchups we have here. We have Lions week 2 that we both like the Lions in. We have a rematch week 4, Eagles Bucks, that we both like the Buccaneers in. And then we see the Falcons for the first time after that, which we have them splitting. You like the Falcons, I like the Bucks. Moving on down the line here, we have a Super Bowl matchup, Buccaneers-Chiefs, where I actually like the Buccaneers and you like the Chiefs in that game. And week 10. And then after that, it's pretty chalk for both of us. I have the Raiders still in one late in the season.
Both have the Panthers taking a game in Carolina.
Yes, and I mean, I think the Panthers are going to be better than people give them credit for. He was talking about it. Dave Canales is hell of a coach. So I definitely think the Panthers can take one, especially with his knowledge of this roster and the construction of that team. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see them take one there. But yeah, other than that, that's most of the big games they have on the schedule. We both have the Cowboys winning late in the season on Sunday Night Football. And then we have the Buccaneers closing out the season against the Saints and Panthers with wins at home. So
I just want to say, I think this is the toughest division to predict.
Predict, yes, but probably not the toughest division, or even close to the toughest division in football.
Yeah, no, not in football, but as far as like predicting win-loss, I had a really hard time with this division. We both have them sitting at 9 and 8.
And I think that's about right. And 7.5 win total is crazy. So I mean,
that seems.
I do agree with him on run to your Bucky and take that over, because 7.5. I mean, we have the even if you look at, we have them beating somebody here, it's like, well, we still have the Panthers getting a game here. So I mean, we have, like, I have the Raiders beating them. So I mean, there's it goes both ways. It's not like I just have them beating all the bad teams and losing to the good teams, or you're the same way, or vice versa. I think they're a solid team, and 7.5 is a crazy number.
Yeah. All right. Now let's get on over to the Hotlanta
Dirty Birds. All right.
Where you want to start with this one?
I mean, he was kind of disrespecting them a little bit here, but this offensive line, I think, is much better than he was talking about.
This O-line is a big reason why I do like this team. Like
I think this O-line's fantastic.
It's one of the best in football, I think.
Yes, I think it's very, very closely behind Detroit. Definitely would say it's top 5 easily, probably even top 3. Jake Matthews has been a solid tackle for going on a decade plus now.
Yeah, I mean he is really good.
Yeah, and then they have a Vrabel on the offensive line.
He's not the best pass blocker, but his run blocking it makes up for it. And
I mean,
that's kind of the story of this O line, though.
When you're a top 5 draft pick 14 years ago, wasn't he? He was high, wasn't he?
I don't think
top
he was
10,
that
maybe.
high. I mean, maybe he was.
He went before Taylor Lewan. And Taylor Lewan was
6th
7,
overall.
I think.
6th overall.
Yeah, so I know he was up there, and I mean to still be on the team that drafted you 6th overall, you're solid to good. I mean he's great, but I love this interior offensive line they have. And if you want to talk some more about the tackles,
yeah, I mean, so to me, I look at this O line, they're not as good in pass pro as they are in run blocking. I think they're going to have to lean more play action heavy than Kirk Cousins has the past few years because of Matthews is strong, but Caleb McGarry, and I think I said earlier that Matthews isn't as good in pass pro as he is in run blocking. I got that mixed up in my head. I was thinking Caleb McGarry, but Jake Matthews is solid in both, but better pass blocker. Caleb McGarry, I do not trust him in true pass sets as a pass blocker, but as a run blocker, this dude's an animal. Truly, I think Caleb McGarry's an offensive guard playing right tackle, but he does it well enough within the systems that they've run, avoiding more true pass sets. So I'm interested to see how he does in an offense that's going to put him on an island more often. They're going to have to give him more tight end help over on that side. But as a run blocker, this dude's an animal, and he's going to clear ways. I think you're muted, Jay.
Oh, my dogs are going crazy. I'm going to go put them up real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay. And then looking at the interior here that Jay was mentioning, I mean, Matt Bergeron was a guy who I loved in last year's draft. I still love him. He had a bit rougher of a rookie year. I mean, he rough by veteran standards, I guess. By rookie standards, I thought he played pretty well. At guard, I think he's just going to get better and better as he gets older in the league here. Played really well in his own blocking scheme. I do not see any reason why he's not going to get better in year 2. Just the mass they have, man. Bergeron is a big guard. Lindstrom is a big guard. Chris Lindstrom is probably a top 5 offensive guard in the NFL right now. They're going to clear ways. The run game is going to be there. And if Kirk Cousins is what he was coming off the torn Achilles, I do not think the O-line is going to be an issue for them because he's going to get the ball out quickly. He's probably going to take a few more hits than he was in Minnesota just because I don't think they're as strong in the pass pro. But the run games would be so much stronger that it's going to open up stuff in the pass game for him to hit quickly. And then Drew Dahlman, I was pretty impressed by his run blocking, I'm going to be honest. I thought he played kind of like a madman out there. But another guy, his pass pro is not going to be quite that great. But run blocking is awesome. You can tell this was an Arthur Smith offensive line.
Yes. And I'll be interested to see what they are now. But I love this offensive line.
Yeah. They're animals. They're going to beat you up. They're going to beat you down. I think late in the season last year, they got into a bad way. You kind of tell, I think the team was maybe not, I don't want to say that they were quitting on the team, but you could tell there was chemistry issues in that locker room with Arthur Smith down the stretch last year. And I do not think that they played up to their talent level in the last quarter of the season. Whereas you flip on games from the first like half of the season, these guys are just road grading people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And teams knew they were going to run on them, and they were still doing it.
Yeah. So an older Kirk Cousins, who's later in his career, this is probably the best offensive line he's ever played behind, with the best running back, I would say. I mean, would you say Bijan's better than prime Dalvin Cook? About the same at worst?
Yeah, I'd say he's like right on par with prime Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
Like,
so
I honestly, I don't know. I'm don't ask a Bears fan what they think of Dalvin Cook, because the Bears defense was really good in his prime.
I was
and
never
I
high
never
on
thought
Dalvin.
he was
I
that
was
good
never
because
I was never high on Dalvin Cook. I thought he feasted on when he was good. He was really good, but I felt like he didn't show up more often than not. But that's neither here nor there.
I mean, I think Bijan's better than him, if I'm being honest. I just don't know how skewed my lens might be.
So if you look at this offense from top to bottom, I mean, there's obviously not a Justin Jefferson on this team and stuff like that, but this is the best assortment of talent from 1 to 11 on the offensive side of the ball that Kirk Cousins has ever played with.
Yeah, probably. Like just clearly across the line and the weapons.
The offensive line, weapons across the board.
It's up, like back, they don't have any player that touches Justin Jefferson overall. So like it's a tough thing to say.
Yes.
But like as far as the total unit, I think it's all more cohesive all around. And truly, I know you're not a Drake London guy, but man, I flip on this guy's tape. This dude's a monster, man.
I think he's a true one.
What he was doing with some of Desmond Ritter's passes was just ridiculous. And same with Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts was making some insane plays to make for 5-yard gains. Like, it was just like that ball should not be that far off. And I don't know how he's getting to it, but he is.
Yeah. What's crazy to me, when you look at this wide receiver room, what would have, I mean, I think with Drake London, I guess it doesn't make as much sense, but it's like what New York did going out and getting Mike Williams from LA. Like, I just feel like Mike Williams would have fit perfectly here. Like, are Darnell Mooney and Rondale Moore like the same guy?
No, not even close.
You don't think so?
Not at all similar.
They look
Rondale Moore's a gadget.
In my mind,
Rondale Moore's a gadget player who you're gonna get jet sweep touches. You're gonna use him in the backfield at times. You're gonna have plays that are specifically designed to get him the football.
Why are they the same? Why are they the same player in my mind?
I don't know. I have no. Darnell Mooney's a route winner. Like, he's gonna win with his route running. It's a completely different football player. Like, they're both fast.
They're the same person.
Rondale Moore is going to run the football like a running back when he has the ball in his hands. Darnell Mooney is a smooth downfield strider.
Maybe I'm not thinking of the right
verdict. Who's trying to win vertically and intermediate with his route running.
Who was? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm confusing these people. Was there the third wide receiver in Arizona after Christian Kirk and Rondale Moore that I'm confusing here?
I mean, Hollywood was there for a minute.
No,
AJ Green was there.
No, there just another guy like that looked like Darnell Mooney out there. Maybe I can't
think of it.
Maybe I just projecting then. But I'm very excited for Darnell Mooney in this offense. I think he's going to do fine. I think Kirk Cousins going to give him opportunities that he hasn't had in his career to this point, and playing behind
Darnell Mooney went to Atlanta because Kirk Cousins said, go get Darnell Mooney. Like, he knows that he can work. I really think Kirk Cousins is the type of quarterback that can maximize Darnell Mooney's skill set and the way that he plays the game. And those two are going to get along great in this offense.
Yeah. And then we talked about the running back room a little bit. Tyler Algier just quietly behind Bijan Robinson, might be the best 1-2 punch in the NFL at running back.
It's up there. They have no
And
real third, though, but I mean, that's just splitting hairs at that point.
Yeah. Assuming they both stay healthy, and if one goes down, both can do it.
Yeah, they both can be your horse, so
So
it's fine.
you just need relief from a body at that point.
Yeah.
And then Kyle Pitts is he? I know he's supremely talented. Is he a legit tight end, or is he just a big-bodied wide receiver that runs routes from inside the hashes?
He's Evan Ingram.
Better than Evan Ingram?
I think he's more talented than Evan Ingram. And I think with Kirk Cousins, he'll probably be better than Evan Ingram. But
is this the year to draft Kyle Pitts in fantasy finally?
Oh, I told myself I'd say no. No, going into the tape, I told myself I am not buying into Kyle Pitts again. But then I turned on the tape and I just saw this dude making some insane plays. And it was like, how can I not buy into Kyle Pitts?
Yeah, it's crazy.
His quarterback situation has been such crap that I really think it's shrouded a lot, him and London, a lot of what they're doing, but because their production isn't quite there. I mean, even he put up almost 700 yards last year. The production was solid, but
3 touchdowns.
Yeah. And I don't know if he's ever going to be a giant touchdown guy, but the yards are always going to be big. Or they should be big. He's got his share is probably going to shrink in this offense with Darnell Mooney coming in as the 2, because he's been the 2 here. But yeah, I don't know how much you can ask him this to get in line and be a blocker. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's tough. A lot of skill here, and then you look at Kirk Cousins. I think this is going to be a very, very, very good offense.
Yeah, I think that as long as Cousins is still the guy he was last year, and I don't think it's an Achilles, so it's always tough to tell, but
he's not the most mobile anyway.
There's nothing about Kirk Cousins' game that should say that Achilles is going to really hurt him that much.
Outside of being able to just plant and throw. But if you can't plant and throw, I mean, we've got much bigger issues.
Yeah, I really like a lot of this offense. I think Rondale Moore and Darnell Mooney are going to be really interesting here when you have 2 just skyscrapers who can win vertically in Kyle Pitts and Drake London, and Mooney's ability to work the intermediate and Moore's ability to work the short.
And then Bijan being able to catch the ball out of the backfield.
Yeah. I think if you're an offensive coordinator, you're looking at this offense, you're drooling at what you have to work with.
I think so, and I really think.
And granted,
this
it's
team
not
is,
Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, but it's still really good.
But I mean, I think the sum of the total is better than the sum of the total.
Yeah, I agree.
In Florida,
I agree.
And I mean, we can move on to the defense, but I mean, I feel like this team was like a Dallas Turner away from really making a difference here.
They're an edge rusher away. I don't love their interior. They just addressed a ton of it. They drafted Ruka Rororo in the 2nd round, Brandon Dorless in the 4th round, and then Zion Logue in the 6th round. I mean, I liked Rororo. I thought they reached for him, but I think that he's a twitched up guy who has a chance to really get better in the NFL. His age might not imply that, but I think he plays with a good violence and has just such nice athleticism and burst that you can work with that. Brandon Dorless is a tweener. I'm not sure you can play him against the run, but I think he's going to be able to get some pressure as a pass rusher. I think David Onyemata is one of the most overlooked defensive tackles in the NFL, but he's up there in age.
Yeah.
Grady Jarrett, again, up there in age. He's still good. He missed a lot of games last year, tore his ACL, something like week 5, I want to say. So,
if we're in the trust tree here, being honest, I didn't even know Grady Jarrett was still in the league.
Yeah, I mean, he missed most of last year. Like he was good when he was out there, but I'm not sure he's the same guy he was, which you can kind of see in his PFF grade here. I mean, it was limited sample size, but at 70.3, he was a guy who was in the high 80s for a long time.
Yeah.
But if you're able to spell him more with a row and doorless, because both those guys are going to fit that more 3-tech kind of role, or like that gap shooter kind of role, and you still feel good about Onyemata, who the tape, I don't see a reason why you wouldn't still feel good about him, but the age is really the reason. I want to say he's like 30 or 31. And then Taquan Graham is a solid rotational guy, but like I feel like you're relying on a lot with 2 older defensive tackles and 2 rookie defensive tackles, and not a lot in between. And that just feels risky to me on the interior, especially when your edge rusher room looks like Lorenzo Carter, Arnold Ebiketie, Zach Harrison, and Braylon Trice. Like, Carter is fine. He's a fine rotational player. Ebiketie, there's still stuff to prove. He showed some flashes last year that you really liked. Zach Harrison, I thought started to really come on down the stretch for them, but he's more of a tweener edge, like 5-tech kind of defensive player. I loved him in the draft. Like, loved him because I always fall in love with long, big edge rushers who aren't bendy, but are just strong as hell. And that's what he is. Like, so he's not dynamic, but he has a floor that he really sets on the defense when he's out there, which there's a place for, but you just don't have difference makers on this defensive line unless Onyemata keeps being really good into his 30s and Grady Jarrett comes back in his 30s off a torn ACL and is still that guy.
Yeah, so there's a lot of
this is where I have questions on this roster.
Yes, which
the defense.
As a Falcons fan, it's got to drive you crazy that they went out and took a 26-year-old rookie in the first round with
Byron Murphy staring you in the face.
Byron Murphy, Dallas Turner, the kid that
Jared Verse,
the kid that ended up going the first defense player off the board out of UCLA.
Latu.
Yes,
Latu would be a great fit here.
You had your pick of the litter for first defensive player off the board, whatever that may be, on a team where your biggest weakness is the defense. You signed a quarterback that you hope can give you 2 to 3 years, and it just seems like they just threw that all away for a guy that, best case scenario, is making his first start at 29 years old.
I will say this for the defensive line, not in defense of Penix, but in defense of the defensive line here. Watching the Rams last year, Raheem Morris did a lot of really interesting stuff to scheme up pressure when Aaron Donald wasn't on the field and got a lot out of a little bit of there. So, like, I think Raheem Morris can work with this. It's just a question, like, why wouldn't you take a difference maker at that draft pick when you could? So
if that's your reasoning for it, it's like if we're gonna get the most out of what we have, so we can afford to take a shot, then why are you taking a shot on a guy that your team is good enough to win now in a pretty weak NFC in totality?
You want me to go?
Yeah.
I have a theory. So, Terry Fontenot, GM in Atlanta, spent some time in Chicago under Ryan Pace. His right-hand man in Atlanta is Ryan Pace. Ryan Pace drafted Mitchell Trubisky to sit and learn. That didn't work out. Then Ryan Pace drafted Justin Fields to sit and learn, and that didn't work out. And Ryan Pace has just been itching to get an opportunity to let a quarterback sit and learn behind an established starter, but he's never had the established starter. And he said, well, we got the established starter. And he convinced Terry Fontenot to go get a quarterback who he could sit behind that starter because he's just been burned so many times by it, and he's like, "This is the golden opportunity. Can't pass on this."
Oh, everything you just said was true. And if you took JJ McCarthy, I would think differently.
Yeah,
they took a guy who was in college for 7 years, who was terrible at Arkansas, and had a couple put together a couple good seasons at Washington.
Well, Indiana, not Arkansas.
Indiana, yeah. He's not KJ Jefferson. I'm an idiot. Indiana, yeah, I'll get roasted for that in the YouTube comments. Thank you. Yeah, and I like Michael Penix. I didn't even think he should be a first-round pick. It's just crazy. I felt like a team that was going to take Michael Penix was maybe a team that was supremely talented that had question marks at their quarterback position, maybe in the 20s or 30s in the draft. Like, I thought the Eagles would have been a perfect fit for Penix because I don't think they have a whole lot of faith in Jalen Hurts as much as they act like they have a lot of faith in Jalen Hurts. I thought that would have been a good fit. I thought maybe the Saints with question marks with Derek Carr. Teams like that. I mean, you don't go out and pay the money you paid to Kirk Cousins to sit a top 10 pick for the best case scenario. He's his first year starting. He's going to be coming up on a 5th-year option.
Yeah, I mean it was something. It was something.
Yes, but I guess that's enough talk about
Michael
the
Penix.
offense. Yeah, Michael Penix, and we talked about the defensive line. We can get the linebackers here.
So Caden Ellis is a dude. Man, Caden Ellis is everywhere, making tackles, flying downhill into run lanes, like getting into passing lanes. I really like what I saw from Caden Ellis. But behind that, I mean, I didn't notice Nate Landman that much. I know he's a strong run defender. I know I've heard about that. I know I've seen some of it, but like I don't see like outside of Caden Ellis, I feel like you just have some guys here. Like Landman fills a role, but he's not anything to really talk a whole lot about it. Linebacker, and Troy Anderson hasn't really worked out for them there. I mean, who knows? Maybe what would it be, his 3rd year jump? But like, I wouldn't expect it. They drafted J.D. Bertrand out of Notre Dame in the 5th round. I do like Bertrand as like a solid potential linebacker. I think he's a guy who might be able to start in this league, but I'm not sure how much more. He's similar to Landman in my mind, but a bit different skill set, but similar as far as being like, he can be a solid player. I don't know if he's going to be a lot more than that, though.
Yeah.
And then in the corner room, I just have some questions all over this defense. Like, A.J. Terrell is still a good corner. Behind him, I mean, D. Alford, there's some nice stuff on tape, but I'm not sure that I trust him.
Was he a first-round pick?
I don't think so. I don't remember where D. Alford came from.
I remember the name.
Yeah. And then Clark Phillips, I guess, is probably in the nickel, but I mean, maybe that's Mike Hughes. Like, I think on their depth chart, let's see, I think on their depth chart, they have Clark Phillips starting outside. Yeah, they have Clark Phillips starting outside as the cornerback too, which is interesting because I thought he was a nickel only guy coming out. And I mean, maybe he played outside more last year, but I didn't think his skill set was that suited to outside. And again, I didn't see a lot on tape. He only played 36% of the snaps his rookie year last year. So like maybe I just missed it, but I didn't see a lot on tape that stuck out to me about him either. And they got Mike Hughes slated to play in the slot, I believe, or was it Alford? Let's see. Yeah, Mike Hughes on the depth chart slated to play in the slot. I did like some of what I saw from Alford, but he only played 50% of the snaps last year. The strength of his defense is clearly in the safety room. Like, Jesse Bates is awesome.
Yeah, so JC was talking about Antoine Whitfield being the best safety in the league, kind of bar none. I think Jesse Bates might take that.
I'd take Winfield over Bates.
Would you? Mm-hmm. I love Jesse Bates.
I love Jesse Bates too. I think they're both in the conversation, but I just think I think Winfield is a true difference maker on any defense.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, even if that's the case, I think it's a lot closer than bar none.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, but yeah, Jesse Bates is phenomenal. He on that Super Bowl run with the Bengals, he was so huge.
He was huge for this Falcons defense last year. He's making plays left and right.
Yeah, unfortunately, they had a potato at quarterback, though.
Yeah, dude, it is truly upsetting.
How did they not get anybody
about this team last year? Like, this team should have been good, but Desmond Ridder was at quarterback.
It is crazy that they just
wrote it. They were just like, yeah, this is what we're doing, guys.
They never, like, Josh Dobbs was on, 5 teams last year? How did Josh Dobbs never play for the Falcons last year?
Why didn't they just draft, like, Aiden O'Connell? Like, anybody.
Or throw a – I mean, I know it's in the division, but the Saints for Jameis Winston probably would have taken a 5th-round pick.
Yeah, just anything else could have been better than what they did.
It's crazy. There's guys out there.
Because they had Calais Campbell still last year. They had some other guys on this team. They had Bud Dupree on the edge. It wasn't great, but he made some plays for them. And it's like now, I mean, maybe Ebiketie will be better than Dupree was last year, but I don't know. Jeff Okudah was awful for them.
Top 3 pick.
He was awful. Oh God! I mean,
he'll always be a top 3. He'll always be a top 3 pick.
When I first turned on the tape, I thought AJ Terrell wore number 1, and I was just like, "Oh my God, AJ Terrell sucks." And then I looked it up. I was like, "Oh no, that's Jeff Okudah." Okay, that makes more sense.
Lions legend.
Yeah. What do you like on this team for value?
9.5 wins is steep. Like I said, we love Kirk Cousins. We don't know exactly what we're going to see out of him, but if we just see average Kirk Cousins, that's what, 4,500 yards, 28, 29 touchdowns, less than 10 interceptions. He's going to take care of the ball. He's going to win you a lot of games.
He's going to be top 10 in pass yards.
So he's going to be great if he's just average
top
Kirk
10
Cousins.
In touchdown percentage. He's going to
be if he's great Kirk Cousins, then we're talking. We're talking this team might compete for the NFC title. And what better way for Kirk Cousins to finally have that breakout playoff success than right after the team he just signed with, going out and drafting a quarterback 8 overall? Would anything complete the Kirk Cousins story better than that? As a guy,
playoffs by a tiebreaker after taking quarterback 8 overall.
Or no, he would have his best season ever. He would have his most playoff success, maybe an NFC Championship game, maybe a Super Bowl appearance. Because I mean, that's kind of how he came in. Bookends for the career. A team drafts a quarterback number 2 overall, takes him in the 2nd round. He ends up having way more success than the guy they took 2nd overall, who was Rookie of the Year over Andrew Luck.
Yeah, I see what you're saying now.
Rookie of the Year over Andrew Luck. Don't get it twisted. RG3 was different, and that situation was what it was. But to come into the league in that situation as a guy that was yeah, if I get my opportunity, I know I'm going to be a 2nd or 3rd round pick, but I know if I get my opportunity, I'm going to be able to shine. And to go from that mentality to be oh, they took somebody in my same draft class, 2 overall, and then to still have that success, then go later in his career where he's an established starter. He's a top 8 to 15 quarterback, depending on how you measure things. And he gets put in a driver's seat of a Lamborghini offense. And the front office is you're our guy. We paid you $1 billion, but we're still taking a guy at 8 overall instead of making this team just a little bit better somewhere else that might be able to put us over the edge. That would be the perfect Kirk Cousins story to make a huge playoff run, win 13 games, make a Super Bowl and lose in heartbreaking fashion to the Chiefs.
You're right. That would be that would be perfect. But for value, I'm not taking NFC champs. And excuse the graphic saying AFC champs.
NFC. Yeah. Roast us in the YouTube comments, please. Love that. No, look at here. I mean, 11-1 for NFC champs is ludicrous odds. So 11-1, and you're still talking about the 49ers. You're still talking about the Cowboys. You're still talking about the Eagles. You're still talking about the Lions. The Packers were really good last year. The Bears are ascending. I feel like 11-1 is outrageous numbers when you can name 5 teams pretty easily in the same conference that I would say most people would agree that are better. And then you can name probably 3 or 4 other teams that are on the same level. I feel like 11-1 is.
Yeah, I just don't think this defense is there. I just don't think. Yeah, I don't think this defense is there to be NFC champs.
But this is. I feel like the numbers are pretty right here, so it's
for
hard
value.
To find value.
I'm taking missed playoffs. Plus 156. That's it. Like, not that I think they're gonna miss the playoffs, but the value bet to me is them to miss the playoffs.
If you forced me to take a bet here, that would probably be it. But
yeah, I'm with you.
Because under wins, you're not making the playoffs if you go under 9.5, I don't think.
No, neither. I mean, I think with tiebreakers, I'm willing to play that game,
Yeah. So you get a little bit more, you get a little bit better odds to just completely miss the playoffs than you do the under. So
yeah.
And minus 120 to win the division after everything we talked about the Buccaneers just now is outrageous too. I do think the Falcons are the better team, but the one thing the Falcons do have for them though is if Kirk Cousins goes down, you drafted a quarterback 8 overall, and you got to hope that he can step in and do it. To where if the Buccaneers lose Baker Mayfield, like our JC was saying, I mean, he would expect success at a 500 win rate. You got to hope your 8 overall quarterback can win more than half of his games if Kirk Cousins goes down.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he should. I mean,
8 overall.
With this offensive roster, you'd hope he could at least keep it afloat.
Yeah. So looking at the schedule breakdown real quick, some big games we have here. We got the Eagles week 2, big game. We
third
both
year in a row where Kirk Cousins playing in Philadelphia in week 2.
Yeah, we both like the Eagles there. Then we see the defending, reigning 2-time Super Bowl champions Chiefs winning on Sunday Night Football. Back-to-back primetime games for Kirk Cousins coming off injury is brutal.
Yeah.
And then we like the Falcons versus the Saints after that. But then we have the Buccaneers. I have the Buccaneers winning week 5. You have the Falcons.
Yeah, initially I had the Buccaneers winning week 5, and then the Falcons win it in Atlanta, and then the Falcons winning in Tampa. And I don't remember why, so I just flipped them back because that doesn't add up to me.
Mm-hmm. And then some more big games. Cowboys, Falcons. Kirk Cousins is not good historically against the Cowboys. We both like the Cowboys in that game.
And he's going to be going up against his former head coach, Mike Zimmer.
Yes. And then a big under-the-radar game, in my opinion, I feel like Dallas Turner is going to wreak havoc in that Vikings game.
I had the Vikings here, but with everything that has happened with the Vikings in recent weeks, I think that team's just going to be a dumpster fire. And like I'm going Falcons here.
I know I didn't talk about it when we talked about Vikings. I might be starting to like JJ McCarthy a lot.
Maybe. I mean, my hesitation isn't about JJ McCarthy. It's about Mekhi Blackman just going down for the year. It's about the Jordan Addison arrest and there's a lot of stuff happening.
Jordan Addison just gets wild with it. It's okay.
Yeah. He definitely gets wild with it.
So Falcons Commanders, Dan Quinn. We don't think Dan Quinn wins here. I don't think so.
I don't know how that secondary stops Atlanta. I just don't.
Yeah. And rookie quarterback late in the season. It is in Washington, but they probably have the worst field in football. And when you put the worst field in football that late in the season, that might hurt the Falcons more than the Commanders, honestly, now that I think about it. But it's tough for those DBs to keep their feet on that shitty of a field late in the season. God, how are they still playing games there?
I don't know. All right, so
it makes no sense. But
I've got
yeah,
them at
so
11-6. I went too aggressive on that. I need to flip one of these.
you had them at 12
No,
when we first did this.
no, I had them at 9-8 10 minutes ago.
Oh, you gave the Falcons a game.
All right, I'll give the Vikings one back. I like them at 10-6 or 10-7. So yeah,
I think it's gonna be them and the Bucks at the end of the season. I think one of them wins 9 to 10 games, and the other one wins 7 to 8. I think that's right about where it is. I have them both at 9 and 8. I think one of them wins about 2 to 3 games more than the other one, and I think this division's only getting one team.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move it along. Who we got next? Who day?
Saints.
This is one of the hardest teams for me. Like,
yeah,
I flip on the tape. I'm like, dude, Chris Olave balls out. Rashid Shaheed is on the rise. Like, A.T. Perry is my freaking dude. And then like Lattimore's still awesome. They got Honey Badger up there in the secondary. Demario Davis covers up so much. Paulson Adebo started to look really nice down the stretch.
Cam Jordan's still playing very high level football.
Yeah, he's still fine. Like, he's still good enough to be a quality starter. But then I see Derek Carr in this offensive line, and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, and Ramchek's now out, so we know it's gonna be Tyler Penning.
Yep, Trevor Penning.
Trevor, Mr. Penning. Yeah, so I mean, I want to like Derek Carr. Is that bad to say? I want to like Derek Carr.
Dude, look at those final 5, 6, 7 games of the year last year. He was kind of killing it, but
how could you not?
But I just still the first 5 games of the year, he was freaking awful.
It's kind of crazy.
6 games.
It's kind of crazy to think that this team could be a dark horse in this division. When you think about the Saints and think about the success
there's a world where
they had the success they had for so long with Drew Brees and Sean Payton and all that. To think about them as a dark horse, but now it's like, oh, you have Derek Carr, different regime running the show. But then everything you just said with the playmakers they have on this team, I think they have a legitimate chance to really, really make some noise down south.
I do too, and then I don't, and then I'm just, someone needs to stink in the NFL this year. Teams need to be bad, and where I keep coming down to when I'm looking at the schedule for the entire NFL, I'm like, this team has risk written all over it, and usually those are the teams that end up being bad.
Yes. So starting out with the running back room, Alvin Kamara is not what he used to be. I loved Kendre Miller coming out last year. I didn't think he got the opportunities that he needed. Jamal Williams was a touchdown machine once upon a time, but you can only be a touchdown machine given the opportunities, and what he brings to the table compared to other guys on the roster. I don't love
Well,
him.
and I do think Kamara, like, I think he's getting overlooked a little too much. On tape, he's still got some bursts. He's still got some
He
wiggle,
is
and there's
getting old,
still
though.
something there. He's getting old, but I think he's getting overly sold. He is getting oversold right now, and he's not what he was, but he's still pretty darn good.
Yeah, and I think Kendra Miller definitely has a chance to break out here. I didn't even realize James Robinson was on this roster, to be honest. But there's a lot to like about this running back room if they can figure it out. If Alvin Kamara can give you that burst, if Jamal Williams can be a short down back, and Kendra Miller can start coming on as a true benefit to the offense, where you can give him legitimate, meaningful carries, and kind of keep the carries off Kamara early in the season, stuff like that. I think that can be a huge help to get that running game going. But you look at this wide receiver room, man. Chris Olave is so damn good.
Yeah, like I don't even think this is like a great, like, I like Shaheed a lot, but like I think that he's kind of typecast in a role. I just love Chris Olave and A.T. Perry. Like I'm way over betting on A.T. Perry, but like
Yeah. And they have Equanimous St. Brown, Bears legend.
Yeah. Fastest curl route in the league.
But yeah, a lot to like here. And then Juwan Johnson, Foster Moreau, Taysom Hill at the tight end room. That,
dude, I have to say,
might be one of the better tight end rooms in the league.
Taysom Hill still balls.
Oh,
he makes some disgusting plays at times.
It's a shame that Taysom Hill was born when he was born, because if Taysom Hill played in the 70s or 80s, I mean, we might talk about Taysom Hill as the greatest football player of all time. And when you just break down just the definition of football player and not typecasted into a position, Taysom Hill is the most football-playing football player probably in the league.
It's up there.
I just want to see him get some reps at edge rusher, and that'll complete it for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'd love to see that. All right, let's move it on over to the O line. Like, Ramczyk was the stalwart of this unit. He's not playing this year. I guess it's still, I can't, like, every time I hear about it on podcasts or anything, it always ends up with a question mark at the end. So, like, I still don't really know, but I think I know that he's not playing. I don't even know what's going on there, if I'm being honest. It seems to be shrouded in mystery. But
is there still hope for Trevor Penning?
I want to think so. Like, so truly, I seem to be the only person who thinks this from everything I've heard, but I saw some impressive moments from him last year of, like, okay, there might be growth here, but he is in a state with his career where the only way he is going to get better is by playing football, and he hasn't played a lot of football in his first 2 years. So, like, it's this breaking point of he's just not going to be good unless he can play. On mute.
Sorry, my dogs are still going crazy. I'm about to have to go let them out again. But yeah, so Trevor Penning, it's one of those. I mean, you invest a lot in him, and assuming Ramczyk's out, like, he's got to show something this year. He's got to get it done this year.
Well, yeah, and I mean, across from him, Talisi Fuaga, like, there's stuff.
I like him.
I liked him as a guard more than a tackle, though, and now he's suddenly your left tackle. He played right tackle at Oregon State. Like, my main hesitation for this team is the offensive line. Line and defensive line, but more the offensive line than anything.
I'll be right back.
Yeah. And I mean, on the interior, I do feel like you have two pretty dang good football players in Eric McCoy and Cesar Ruiz. Cesar Ruiz is probably going to be a free agent after this year. It seems like I don't know if they can finagle the cap to keep him around, but you feel good about those two players. The other guard spot, I mean, you have Nick Saldiveri, who hasn't played much, was an okay prospect in my opinion. And then you got Shane Lemieux and Lucas Patrick, who you don't buy into the numbers there. You do not want Lucas Patrick playing for your football team. Like he's a fine rotational backup, or not even rotational, but depth piece. But like, hope Nick Saldiveri is good enough to keep Lucas Patrick off the field, because he was not good for the Bears the last few years. And I just see potential for problems all over this offensive line. I mean, there is a world where Trevor Penning hits that third-year stride and Talisi Fuaga comes in and is a solid left tackle for you. Then suddenly this offensive line starts to look good. But that's not something I'd bet on, because rookie offensive tackles tend to not be actually good. They can be good for rookies, but they tend to not be good. And all the signs so far tell us that Trevor Penning is not going to be it in this league. Like, there's a chance, but I wouldn't be wagering on it. So this offense leaves me with all sorts of questions.
Yeah, it's definitely a cause for concern for sure. And yeah, when you just look at the offense in a whole, it's hard to just really just fall in love with this team.
If you took Chris Olave off this team, I would be much lower on them. Let me put it that way. Like, I love Chris Olave. I love what I've seen from him. But if you took him away from this roster, I would be very worried about this offense.
Yeah. So going to the defensive line. Also, where did Jameis end up? I know we probably talked about it, but I forgot.
One of the division rivals.
Carolina? He wasn't on the Bucks. He wasn't on.
Maybe. I'm not sure. It doesn't matter. Well, we'll keep talking. I'll figure it out.
Yeah. So, it's weird that Chase Young signed here, right?
Is it?
I feel like Chase Young is going the same route as Jadeveon Clowney, just signing short-term deals, trying to make the most money you can. But Clowney is at least somewhat.
Yeah, Clowney's never been bad. That's the thing. Like, Clowney might have never been number one pick good, but he was never bad.
Well, my thing is the way Clowney picks the teams that he signs with is like he's getting the most money he can in a short amount of time, never committing long term, but always like there's a chance we can win a Super Bowl. With Chase Young, it's like, it might have just been for the money. And like I'll say it time and time again, I'll never disparage anybody from making their money. Absolutely. But when you look at some of the other competitors in the league, it's like, could you have not gotten a similar contract from a real competitor, you know?
Yeah, I think there are real questions about Chase Young and his commitment to playing football that keep a lot of teams away from him.
What do you know the contract that he signed, or even close to it? You don't. If you don't, it's fine.
I don't. But I can pull it up here in a bit. And Jameis is with the Browns.
Oh yeah, we definitely talked about that. I remember it now. Yeah. So, but outside of Chase Young, Carl Granderson, Cam Jordan, Isaiah Fowski, Nafai Sewell, and Peyton Turner in this edge room.
So, Granderson is a good football player.
Yeah,
he's not a marquee rusher, but he's a good football player. Cameron Jordan he's not nowhere close to what he used to be, but he's still a serviceable starter, good leadership, all that good
for
stuff.
Life.
And I liked Isaiah Foskey a lot in last year's draft. I believe he was playing through multiple injuries as a rookie, and that really limited his ability to see the field even. But I'm hoping you can see a bump from him this year. I'm starting to talk myself into this edge room a little bit as like a possibility. I still don't think they're taking over games, but I can see how they have strength in numbers. I worry about the interior, though. These guys got after the passer okay. I'm not sure they can stop the run. I really don't think they can stop the run with the interior. So then you're putting a lot of pressure on your edges and your linebackers to do it, which can work. But Brian Brzee drives me a little nuts.
I was about to say Brian Breeze's got to be better.
I don't know if he will be. Like, all his production that I saw comes on stunts where he has an open free runner because he's right. And there's skill to that. There's athletic ability that he has that allows him to be used that way. But in moments where I need a bucket, I don't think Brian Brzee can get me that.
When you need that anchor,
when you need that anchor
in the interior, he's not there.
Yeah, he gets blown up in the run game, and I mean, maybe he added mass or something to help with that. But like, I saw an interview with him, and I just remember thinking, and this will probably get hate in the comments, but I remember thinking, he does not look like a guy going into year 2 who just spent the offseason getting bigger and working on, like, really putting the work in. He looked like the same guy that he was the year before, which he's 6'6". Maybe it's hard for him to look like he's added mass, but like, I don't know. I just remember feeling like, and it's a bad thing to base anything on, right? How a guy looked in a press conference. But like, I just remember thinking he didn't look like the Bears' Gervon Dexter. Looks like a completely different person coming into year 2. And I have that expectation of guys going into their second year that they have molded their body to the NFL, and I didn't feel like I saw that with Brzee.
Yeah, and it just goes more to the, you want to kind of like this team, but the more you look into it, the more you're just like, this is a powder keg waiting to burst.
I feel like they're like purgatory, but like they're also one bad thing away from being bad.
Are they still in Cap Hill, or do they just live in Cap Hill?
Yeah, they're perpetually in it until their GM just goes away.
Are they in it? Are they the Chicago Bulls of the NFL?
Maybe.
In the sense that they're not really a contender, but they do just enough to give their fans hope, like, hey, we might make the dance. Oh, it's the last week of the season. We're still competitive. But they're never really competing for a championship.
Yeah, I think that's a great
they refuse to be bad.
Yeah.
And they refuse to be bad to the point to where they will mortgage their entire future of ever even possibly being good just to not be bad.
Yeah, no, I see it. I think that's where this team is kind of living right now. In the linebacker room, Demario Davis covers up a lot in this deep. That dude is so good. Demario Davis he might be the second best linebacker in the NFL after Fred Warner. Like, and he's getting up there in age, and he's still just like crushing it. Yeah. He's so good. Like in coverage, he is always getting his hand on the football, finding ways to make
Defense
plays.
Player of the Year?
No, because he's a linebacker. We've been through this. The linebackers aren't going to get a chance at it anymore now. But in run defense, he can stack and shed. He's a monster. He's so good. They added Willie Gay to the room, who's a solid football player. They have Pete Werner there, really who's still okay. Like, Pete Werner's, I don't want to say he's not good, but he's a starter in this league. I think that's fair. And they have a bunch of linebackers. Like, I don't worry about the depth in this room either. Like, they've got that on lockdown.
Yeah. And then
go ahead.
I was going to say, look at the safety room. A lot of good safeties in this division. Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, still getting it done. What is it, year 14 for him?
Something like that. He's
solid.
Honey Badger rules.
Yeah, Honey Badger rules. Still very, very solid in this offense. Jordan Howden, I want to like this guy, but what do you think about him?
He's Jordan Howden. I mean, I didn't notice him on tape at all. Like I went through like 3 games, I didn't notice. Maybe he only played 50% of the snaps. Maybe that's why I
Yeah.
didn't notice him on tape very much. But
I
like,
don't remember which game I
there's
saw.
a lot of green here, but I truly, I'm not going to sit here and lie to any viewers. I don't know much about Jordan Howden.
I forgot which game it was. I remember I watched a game last year with the Saints. I can't remember if it was prime time, if I had the Cowboys on one screen and Saints on another screen. I don't remember why I was watching him, but he made like 4 plays in a row where I was like, oh, who is this guy? And then
his numbers here hash that out. His number, like I need to, after this, I'm gonna go turn on the tape and look for Jordan Howden, because I'm sitting here going, how did I not notice him with numbers like this?
I remember he was making plays, and I just thought to myself, I'm like, that's not a real person. This is Jordan Howden playing defensive back in the NFL. Sounds like a dude who should be working at like a law firm or your mechanic at the local
Jonathan Abrams
shop
driver.
Yeah. Yeah, but I just remember he made like 3 plays in a row, and I'm like, who is this guy? And then
I've got to go take a look at it now, because like I believe it, looking at these numbers, that he was probably out there making some plays and I just watched the wrong games.
Yeah. But no, pretty good safety room.
Yeah, pretty good secondary.
Yeah.
Like,
is Marshawn Lattimore still good?
Marshawn Lattimore's still really good when he's healthy. Like
Yeah.
he missed some time last year, but he's still a really good football player out there. Paulson Adebo has really looked like a good football player last year. Like there's a lot to like with him. Alontae Taylor, he was up and down, but like you're talking about your nickel corner there. There's reasons to think he'll be fine. And they added Kool-Aid McKinstry in the draft, who, I mean, he went through some surgery for his Jones fracture in March, but he's back on the field now. Like he's ready to go for camp. So
yeah,
there's reasons to like this secondary, and the secondary and Chris Olave are what keep pulling me back into this team. But I don't know if that's enough.
Derek Carr can be good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, looking at this, 7.5 win total. It's the same win total that Vegas has Tampa Bay at. And they actually have better or worse odds.
This team went 9-8 last year.
Yes. They play good football. Dennis Allen is going to have them competitive. We're going to look up week 10 next year, and they're going to be 6-4.
I don't know.
But I don't know if that means they're good.
I mean, they got Clint Kubiak, who's going to make a difference in this offense. I feel like the offense will be more geared to Derek Carr.
Cedric Wilson's going to have double-digit touchdowns.
A.T. Perry's going to have double-digit touchdowns. Let's be real.
So they're going to have 2 receivers and double-digit touchdowns on top of Chris Olave?
A.T. Perry had 4 touchdowns on like 10 catches last year.
That's what I'm saying. He's going to have double-digit touchdowns. Cedric Wilson's going to have double-digit touchdowns. Chris Olave is going to win Offensive Player of the Year.
No,
Electric offense.
I'm doing it. I'm taking the under 7.5 plus 106.
I think that's probably the play here.
I think this is a lame duck year for Dennis Allen. I think that something needs to change with this team. Something needs to go wrong that puts them on a new course. I feel like this O-line is going to be that. It's going to be what causes it to fall off the rails.
They were so bad for so long that new fans of the NFL just don't realize why this fan base is so content with what's going on. It's because they were just so abysmal.
I'm an old fan of the NFL. I barely remember that.
Yes, because Drew Brees was so good for so long.
Mm-hmm.
But they're just holding on to mediocrity now, to where they're just so terrified of being bad again. But you can be bad again. Go be bad for a couple of years. Go get you a quarterback. Go reset your salary cap. Let some of these guys go and just build. Just rebuild. That's what you need. That's what you need, New Orleans. If if you're fine with winning 7 to 10 games a year, knowing that you'll never sniff a Super Bowl, that's fine, I guess. I mean, that's been my entire life as a Cowboys fan. So, I mean, it's not the worst place to be, I guess. But at least in my scenario, it's us underperforming and not overperforming. Like, at least I can say that. Like, I don't know, man. It's just tough to see because it's just a lot of band-aids every time. Every time they lose somebody, the Derek Carr move was one of those things where it wasn't like when Kirk Cousins went to Minnesota, which I think a lot of people compared it to. That was like the last time we saw a big name quarterback change teams. I mean, it wasn't like that. It was, I don't know. I mean, the Raiders, I don't think the Raiders should have got rid of Derek Carr to begin with, but then to go to New Orleans was even more weird. Derek Carr's just weird. And his brother,
you want to get to the
weird.
Schedule?
Yeah. I just thought this is a weird team.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. They're a big part of what makes this division so hard. Yeah, because like I don't know what the hell to do.
They might win the division. So
there's a world where everything goes right and they do, and there's a world where two things go wrong and they're awful. Like I don't know.
Yeah, so starting out, we both have the Panthers won in week 1. We both have the Cowboys won in week 2. I have Eagles, Falcons, Chiefs, Bucks.
I don't have them when this team starts 0-3 with week 3 on the road. I just don't like. I think you're right. They're going to fight like veterans fighting for a win in week 3. I
didn't realize how low I was. So I don't have the Saints winning a game until Denver week 7. I have an 0-6 Saints team.
Full disclosure, we put these in the spreadsheet like a month ago. So
yeah. God, and this was the last division we did, so all the wins and losses were already there before I even got to look at it. Really, good Lord. Okay, hold on here. Panther. I know I don't have the Panthers winning very many games. Eagles, Saints. Let me give them the Eagles game.
Yeah. I literally, right before we put this up, I gave them the Eagles game. And I was like thinking through, I was like, they're not going to start 0-3 under Dennis Allen with a veteran team. Like,
but if they don't win that Eagles game, it's like they're probably not beating the Falcons. They're probably not beating the Chiefs. And then you got the Buccaneers right after it on a short week after coming off Monday Night Football. And then you're coming off a short week playing a division rival, going straight back to a short week to play your old coach that won you a Super Bowl. Like, oh, man. I don't know. And then we got the Chargers after that. Another big game. You have the Panthers sweeping the Saints.
I do.
You still doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Man,
Panthers going to be feisty.
No, we'll talk about the Panthers. Yeah, I want to give them more wins, but I go down this roster. Raiders.
I thought about switching that.
Derek Carr beat the Raiders.
Ooh, Derek Carr revenge game. I don't think so.
I'm just worried about the Raiders quarterback situation. But late in the season, it's always tough. All right, I'm fine with where they're at. What do I have them at? 5 wins?
6-11. I've got them at 5-12.
I think that's about right.
Someone's got to lose games. Someone's going to lose games.
Yeah, everybody can't be 10-7.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, we could make this series where everybody has 7 through 9 wins, but where's the fun in that?
Yeah, and we'll get killed in the YouTube comments. This team's gonna win at least 11 games.
We get killed either way.
Let me tell you something, YouTube commenter. Everybody can't win 11 to 12 games. And I know we're talking about your team.
You know what we should do next year?
But everybody can't win 11 or 12 games.
Next year, we should give floor, ceiling, and most likely.
I think we just give everybody 3 wins next year and really see the hate.
All right. Carolina Panthers.
Oh, these colors are so pretty.
I know, right? After all the others are so dark, this one's like, boom, right in your face.
So, first and foremost, Bryce Young.
He's young.
He better be the guy. Because if he's not the guy, we're about to get a hard knocks with Caleb Williams front and center in the national media and a hub of media like the city of Chicago is. If Caleb Williams is as advertised, I mean, you're lucky you're the Carolina Panthers, because if you were the Dallas Cowboys or the San Francisco 49ers or the Philadelphia Eagles or the New York Giants, you could never, ever, ever live that down.
No, you really can't. I mean, truly, I do not think if Caleb Williams was the number 1 pick, I don't know if you see them go get Deontay Johnson, go pay these offensive guards. So, like, I don't think you see what I'm seeing here reminds me so much of the 2018 Bears, where they said,
we have to make it work.
Deshaun Watson's really good. Yeah. We need to make sure Mitch Trubisky's good.
They overreacted to Deshaun Watson, not even realizing that Patrick Mahomes was in that draft class.
Yeah. Yeah. But Deshaun Watson put up like 20 touchdowns in 4 games. It was like, oh, we made a mistake.
Yeah. Let's find all the Band-Aids that we can find.
Yeah. Like that's what I see with what they did this offseason of we need to stack this roster up to see if Bryce Young is it as soon as possible. Because if not, we need to move on as soon as possible.
Yeah, but man, looking down that pipeline, like not only did you give up DJ Moore, you gave up Caleb Williams, you gave up another incoming 2nd round pick. We're sitting here and we're looking at this offense. Offensive line looks okay. Jatavian Sanders, you drafted them. Or no, they didn't draft Jatavian. Did they draft? Yeah, they did.
Jatavian Sanders.
They go out and get Deontay Johnson. Xavier Legette might be the coolest dude in football. I don't know if he's good at football.
You know, he has a tattoo of John Belushi on his stomach.
Like I said, probably the coolest dude in football.
I'm so confused by it. I don't know why it's there, but it's there.
I love this wide receiver room. If Xavier Legette's good, I love this wide receiver room.
I don't think he is, but he's fun. He's exciting.
I love Jonathan Brooks. Is Jonathan, right?
Yeah.
Jonathan Brooks out of Texas. Chuba Hubbard. I think Miles Sanders is still technically on this team.
He is. I got yelled at on Twitter for posting this with Miles Sanders as the starter, so I know he is.
But Bryce Young. Let's get into it. What you want to start? Where do you want to start with here?
Bryce Young. Bryce Young is the only place to start because it's all about Bryce Young. This roster is good enough to win if Bryce Young can be good enough.
People forget there were I always joke around about the people forget thing with the Bears and Patrick Mahomes. That's all fun and games between you and I.
Mm-hmm.
But people legitimately forget that there was a true debate between Bryce Young and CJ Stroud last year, especially leading up into the draft. I mean, it was always Bryce Young. And then there was like a week of we really, really, really like CJ Stroud, and they didn't do it. And I don't know if they didn't do it because they were scared and Bryce Young was the consensus, and they were like, we'll never be able to live this down if it's Bryce Young goes out and kills it for Houston or whoever else gets him, without thinking about the possibility that it could be reversed.
I mean,
and
yeah,
does CJ Stroud have the
mistake-
same amount of success with this team as he had with Houston?
No,
Probably not. But does Bryce Young have the same amount of success CJ Stroud had last year? Probably not.
Yeah, probably not. Ultimately, I think it's a giant mistake to trade your number one receiver when you're taking a number one overall quarterback. And that's what this team did. And they didn't have answers for him and pass catchers. Like
that was one of the craziest things about that entire situation.
Before we were like I knew the Bears were looking to trade that number one pick. And I was like, there's no way they're going to give up DJ Moore for him. There's no. Why would you set your quarterback back like that if you're taking a quarterback?
And they got DJ Moore.
Yeah,
DJ Moore, who just signed a fat deal.
Yeah.
Congratulations to DJ Moore.
Let's talk about
for years.
Let's talk about Bryce Young though. He was consistently playing behind the sticks last year. This was the 30th ranked rushing offense in EPA per play and rush success rate as a rushing offense. And their O-line had plenty of busts to go around. He was consistently in 2nd and 10 plus, which is just hard for any quarterback to get out of.
I have to make a confession because I think last year before the season started, I said Miles Sanders going to be top 5 in rushing.
Yeah, I think you did. You had this team vying for the playoffs.
I loved them last year. I love this team last year. I mean, Brian Burns.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I love this team last year.
Really, where I ended, I watched 5 games of them just to try to understand Bryce Young. And where I really ended up with the roster performance where it was is really hard to get any real read on him. All I know is that he was not able to elevate a bad roster. And I think it has to get better, but I don't know the last quarterback who only had 2 games out of whatever he played, 15 games of above average play to become good. That's a really hard place to come back from.
Yes. And I think they've done, like we talked about at the beginning, I think they've done a lot to try to put Band-Aids on things. But Bryce Young essentially lost a year with last year.
He might have been permanently damaged by last year.
Yes.
There might have been bad habits that you never get rid of created, which is what scares me about him.
But this is a new era of football, and we saw it a lot in the early 2000s, 2010s, where never really number one overall pick type of guys, but guys that would get thrown into terrible situations and immediately be out shortly after. Mm-hmm. With what they invested in Bryce Young, I mean, I think we have at least 4 years of Bryce Young in Carolina. I don't see a world where they can move on from him. And in this era of football, I mean, Bryce Young has had better coaching than most guys ever got in their life coming up to that point, especially playing football at Alabama under Nick Saban with the resources Alabama has, to where one detrimental year might not tank a career like it did 15 years ago, but maybe.
Would you be surprised if I told you that Bryce Young put up 3,800 yards, 29 touchdowns, 15 interceptions this year?
No.
That's what Mitch Trubisky did in 2018. A good roster can support a quarterback who is not there. Who is there in a good supporting cast.
We're talking about the Pro Bowler himself, Mitch Trubisky. Correct.
And that's I see so much of that within this roster. Now, it's not saying Bryce Young is going to be Mitchell Trubisky and fail out after that. I mean, maybe he won't. Maybe the circumstance will be better. The coaching will be better. But I don't
Who's their
think
kicker?
the book's necessarily written on him. I do not know who they're. Joey Sly, maybe. I'm not sure if he's still there. I don't cover the special teams, guys. I'm sorry.
I'm just
I
saying.
cover enough.
I'm just saying, as long as it's not Cody Parkey, that'll be all right.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't
Not
think
to the
you're talking about a defense that's on the same tier as the 2018 Bears was. Maybe if they added prime Khalil Mack, they might be. But like,
Yes. Can I say something for this defense?
Yeah.
Defensive Player of the Year, Derek Brown.
love to see it. I do not think it happens.
Defensive Player of the Year.
I would love to see it. I just think it's so hard for a defensive tackle to win that.
Okay. Defensive Player of the Year. You have Hom. J.C. Horn.
Ooh, it's spicy.
Love J.C. Horn. Thought he was gonna be a Cowboy.
If he stays
Probably
on
should
the
have been a
field,
Cowboy.
if he stays on the field, he's really good.
You could have had Micah Parsons, but you took J.C. Horn away from us.
All right, you want to get into the weapons here?
Let's get into these weapons here. Okay, so Chuba Hubbard, Oklahoma State legend, Miles Sanders, Penn State legend, Mike Boone, not a real person.
No, I've watched him play football. He was in Minnesota.
Then Raheem Blackshear, Rashad Penny.
Raheem Blackshear's a little spicy. He's fun.
I would assume Rashad Penny is not going to make this roster with Jonathan Brooks coming in.
I don't know if Mike Boone makes his roster with Jonathan Brooks coming.
Truly. Or Miles Sanders at that. Well, Miles Sanders, I think they paid him pretty good money. But I think this is Jonathan Brooks' backfield. Second round pick. Coming off torn ACL, but assuming he's healthy, I'd assume this is his backfield, right?
Yeah, I think it's Chuba Hubbard and him. I think Chuba Hubbard is the starter right now.
Technically speaking, I think so. But
according to Panthers fans on Twitter, Chuba Hubbard is the starter, and there's no question. Yeah,
do Panther fans love Chuba Hubbard?
Yeah, Panther fans absolutely. Watch him play
because they lost Christian McCaffrey.
He is heart and soul type runner. Like he is
gonna
win.
I've watched a lot of Chuba Hubbard. He's a fine running back. I feel like maybe because I'm not a Panthers fan, is he like a? I could probably say a lot of names that nobody would even.
Jordan Howard. Probably better in the receiving game. I'm not sure though. He didn't do a lot in the receiving game, but like Bears fans adored Jordan Howard, but he was still just Jordan Howard.
I was trying to think of the guy on the Cowboys.
Julius Jones.
No, he I forgot the name. He got arrested for stealing underwear from Abercrombie and Fitch.
Red flag. Major red flag.
This was after he had like a 1,400-yard season. It was like a 7th round pick or something. But anyway, I can't. His last name was like Joseph or something like that. I can't remember. Anyway, it just seems like he's the guy that replaced Christian McCaffrey. So you feel like you have to like him when Jonathan Brooks is the best running back in this room.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Jonathan Brooks is going to take this job eventually. I loved his tape coming out of Texas. And then at receiver, I mean, Adam Thielen, I'll admit I was wrong. He's still doing the dang thing. I thought he was washed. He's not.
Joseph Randle. Great Cowboys running back.
Not allowed in Abercrombie and Fitch.
That he basically was he filled in the role but before Zeke and what. Anyway, it feels like Chuba Hubbard to me is like a really good guy, and then everybody loved him, and then Zeke comes in, and it's like, oh yeah, we don't need you anymore. Yeah. But that's kind of the point I was trying to make.
And then so Adam Thielen should continue to be a starter there. Deontay Johnson's going to start on the outside. Deontay Johnson's a baller. This dude is a route winner. He, don't let 765 yards make you think otherwise. Kenny Pickett was awful. Like, Deontay Johnson is good at football.
As a Panthers fan, does it worry you that Steelers always have success at the wide receiver position, but whenever they leave Pittsburgh, they don't seem to have the same amount of success for some reason?
Yes, it does. Pittsburgh does not just trade guys for fun.
Like
Pittsburgh trades guys knowing why they're trading them. So that does worry me a little.
So who was the first domino to fall in that Pittsburgh wide receiver room? He went to Miami back in like 2010. He was a deep threat guy with Ben Roethlisberger.
Oh, Mike Williams was still good after he left.
Was it Mike Williams?
I want to say it was Mike Williams.
I want to say it was Mike Wallace.
Oh, maybe it was Mike Wallace.
He was pretty good. He was kind of the first domino to fall. Where
I was thinking of Martavis Bryant.
Oh, God. Hall of Famer. Martavis Bryant was so fucking good.
I know. It was awesome.
But yeah, people don't really leave Pittsburgh and continue the same amount of success that they had for one reason or another. I mean, Antonio Brown had his own issues.
If it happens to Johnson, it's a lingering injury. It's like going to be a bad knee or something that starts really flaring up. Like, I don't know exactly what it would be, but it would be some type of injury where
they get the medical information though.
Something is coming.
Do you have to?
No, they get the medical information. They go through all that, but like, there's still some things that they might know more intimately than would be written on paper. You know,
or they just have a hunch. They're like, yeah, he's probably not going to recover from this. Like on paper, it says he should, but like we don't think he will. But you don't have to disclose that.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, and I'm not saying that is what's happening here. I'm just saying because I think Deontay Johnson's tape is really clean. Like, and I don't think there's a major unless I mean, hey, who knows? Antonio Brown was a freaking nutcase, and they kept it under wraps in Pittsburgh. So like, I don't know, but like, it's weird that Pittsburgh is just getting rid of him.
Yes, especially with when they bring in two quarterbacks. And maybe they like that young kid that much that came out of Clemson, but I can't remember his name. Who's a baller? A
receiver? Yeah, this isn't about the Steelers. Let's talk about the Panthers.
He's in his second or third year. You know who I'm talking about. Anyway, is Harris Marshall Jr. ever gonna take that next step?
So. I loved him at LSU. So I've never really. I mean, his chance is gone. You got Adam Thielen, you got Deontay Johnson, you got Xavier Legette, you got Jonathan Mingo ahead of him. Like,
okay, so where does Jonathan Mingo fit into this? Second year guy?
He's got to be number 4, wide receiver 4. I mean, like, you just spent a first on Legette. He's playing.
Even to the detriment of the team?
Why would it be to the detriment of the team?
Well,
because if you think Mingo's better.
Assuming Mingo looks better.
I would think Mingo could win the
play?
job, but like I think Legette's gonna win the job because Legette is the only big body X on this roster. Like, he has a role on every snap.
Adam Thielen's a big body boy. He'll go out there and
Adam Thielen is a slot receiver at this point in his career. Come on now, he ain't an outside X.
Adam Thielen's in the best shape of his career.
You're not asking Adam Thielen to block down on an edge rusher. Come on now.
Adam Thielen will lock down Myles Garrett.
Okay.
Put the clamps on him.
So I mean,
play him at tight end.
I do see potential in this receiver room and like stuff to like.
There's a lot of talent here. It's just how does it all come together?
Yeah, and I mean, Canales might be able to really masterfully do this, but I mean, I think this team's going to be feisty. I really do think this offense is going to find ways to put up.
They might be a cover the
numbers.
spread. They might be a cover the spread wizard.
Yeah.
I think if this team only won 4 games, but they were like 14-3 against the spread, you have a lot to look forward to. And I know you don't want to hear that in the second year quarterback who was the number 1 overall pick. But on the bright side, with these quarterback contracts the way they are, if you can lock him up after like his 3rd year and you haven't had a winning season yet, maybe you can extend him, get him a little bit on the cheap, and like then really build a roster. I don't know how this team goes moving forward, but
yeah,
that's one way to possibly do it. Like, you just keep building, because I like a lot of the pieces they have here.
Yeah, Jonathan
Mingo, 2nd year. Deontay Johnson, 5th year, had a lot of success. Terrence Marshall,
6th,
like we said,
7th, I think.
Yeah, like we said, he's probably probably doesn't have a place on the team in Terrace Marshall, but young wide receiver, you have a young quarterback. Like, we can find some connections here in this wide receiver room with this quarterback to build on. So you just gotta hope that Bryce Young's the guy.
It all comes down to Bryce Young. I mean, in this tight end room, just to close out the weapons.
Tommy Tremble, he's a name.
He's fine. I mean, you need Jatavian Sanders to step up and take a role here because, I mean, Tremble and Ian Thomas, they're both fine.
Jatavian Sanders is
I don't
huge.
know if you want either of those guys starting. He plays bigger than he is. He's actually not as big as he looks.
Am I thinking of a different tight end? Wasn't he like? I thought he was like 6'7".
No, he's like 6'3", 6'4", maybe.
Who is the tight end that I'm thinking of? It don't matter.
But he plays like he's
Yeah.
a former basketball player who like boxes out well and can go.
He's
up
got a
and get
sweet
it.
name.
Yeah, he does. On the O line, I mean, I think Ike Ekwonu is a lot better than what he gets credit for. He looked really bad on tape at times last year, but
what is this, year 3 for him?
Yeah, year 3. But I swear the guards made him look worse than he was. They had some of the worst guard play and the worst interior play in the NFL last year. And I think he got hung out to dry a lot. That really hurt him. And he's not, pass protection isn't what he's known for. He needs to be a marquee run blocker for you. And if Canales does that here, I think he's going to start looking really good again and be back on the right track. Taylor Moton, awesome football player. He's just a standard professional offensive tackle, above average offensive tackle. There's no reason to think he's going to stop being that. There's really nothing to worry about with Taylor Moton as far as I'm concerned. In the interior, went and signed Damian Lewis, who is a solid guard in the league. I think you overpaid him, but you have to get him there. Like that. That's just the way it is. Yeah. He's solid. I don't think he's better than solid, but solid is a massive improvement for what you had last year. Robert Hunt is better than solid. Robert Hunt is a good offensive guard in this league. I don't think he's ever going to be making Pro Bowls, but he can do a job and do it well. He can just run people over in the run game, like just road grader. He's strong as hell. When he gets his hands on you, you're not going anywhere. At center,
Austin Corbett used to be good.
Yeah, Austin Corbett's been fine in this league at times. Again, I think it's probably an upgrade from Bozeman last year. Bozeman was kind of a weird fit last year. I mean, he's such a power run game center, but your offensive line wasn't really geared towards power run game as far as the personnel went. Like, I don't know. Austin Corbett's fine, I think, at center as long as he's staying on the field. Still really question marks at center, I'd say, between Corbett and Zavala. I don't know if Nash Jensen might play any center, but like as far as I'm concerned, you still have some question marks at center, but you have 4 out of 5 positions looking pretty solid here as far as I'm concerned. And I really like Yosh Nijman as a swing tackle. I think he struggled last year in Green Bay, but what he's put on tape previously, I think there's stuff to like with his player profile. Now, where I really start to think this team will be feisty is the D-line. I don't know that you can run on this defense. I look at this D-line, and I see Derek Brown, Ashawn Robinson, DJ Wonham, and Jadeveon Clowney. Like, those are 4 premier run stuffers in this league. I do not know that you can go out there and say, we can confidently run on this team with just their 6 guys in the box. At that point, you have 5 guys back in coverage, or five guys always in coverage, up to 7 guys in coverage, because you can stop the run with your down 4 defensive linemen. That starts to get fun, especially with Ajiro Evero calling plays. He's such a creative defensive coordinator, such an incredible defensive mind. I really think this defense might cause some problems this year. Like, I don't think they're going to be a top 5 defense or anything, but I think that they're going to be very difficult to run the football on, which opens up a lot of coverage possibilities for their back end.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about earlier, Derek Brown is phenomenal. We talk about it every week. Every time there's a a premier interior defensive lineman when we talk about him. Derek Brown's just so damn good.
He's so good, man. I mean, he's just mauling people in there, just throwing grown 300-pound men, 300-pound NFL athletes. He's just throwing them out of the way at times. Like, he is so good and so underrated, so overlooked. Derek Brown is one of the premier defensive tackles.
It's so funny. The guys that stick with you for one reason or another from college to the NFL, and just him wearing a single-digit number in college always, like, that's like the first thing that comes to my mind every time I think Derek Brown.
Yeah. I really do think there's a lot to like in this defensive line. Even losing Brian Burns, like, I don't think you made up for the pass rush. I do think this pass rush.
Do you think they got
some?
Do you think they got the return they deserve for that?
What did they get for Burns?
It wasn't a first, I don't think.
It was a second and another pick, I think.
Yeah, hold on. I can pull it up if you want to keep going.
I think the return was probably okay. I wouldn't say it was good, but it was like probably a little undervalued, but
number 39 overall pick in the 2024 draft and a 2025. So a second and a fifth.
Second and a fifth. Like,
who'd they get? That's who they got. Jonathan Brooks, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like that return is a little light, but like, you can live with it. I think Burns is really good. So, that's it is 39, not, so the difference between that and if they got like 20,
yeah,
it's a difference, but it's not the end of the world difference. Like, I don't know. I feel a little shortchanged by it, but
yeah, I mean, he needed to get paid too, so you never know how that situation goes. Clevion Chasen, did he get drafted by them?
No, he was drafted by the Jaguars.
That's what I thought. I didn't think. Did he get?
They got some youth here. Like,
did he get cut or did they trade for him? Because I thought he was in the draft
like he was a free agent.
I could have sworn he was in the draft like 2 years ago.
No, it was a while ago. It's like 5 years, maybe.
That was throwing me off.
Yeah,
I get some players' drafts confused. I could have swore Clevion Chasen was like 2 years ago.
One other guy in the edge room I do want to mention is Amari Barno. I did notice him flashing on tape here and there as a run stuffer. Like, and I don't even think that was his MO coming out of college. So it's impressive that he was able to add that, and there might be something more there. Then at linebacker, I mean, a lot of change here. They lose Frankie Louvu, who was a big part of what they did last year. Bring in Josie Jewell. I mean, I guess not a lot of change, but like Louvu was an important name for their defense
Very good.
last year.
Him and Burns were kind of like the backbone of this defense for a long time.
Yeah, and I like Jeremy Chin a lot, but he's gone now, which is odd to me. But either way, I probably just didn't know enough about what all went on there. But Shaq Thompson missed most of last year with a broken ankle. I think Shaq Thompson's probably still a pretty good football player. Like, he's up there in age, but I think he's gonna be good regardless, coming off that broken ankle, as long as he can stay healthy. And I think Josie Jewell is a really instinctive, quality linebacker. I worry about what they have behind those guys. They did take Trevin Wallace in the third round. I didn't love Wallace in this draft, but like, linebackers are tough to assess in college, and I'm wrong. Everyone's wrong about linebackers all the time. So,
speaking of linebackers, how old would you think Luke Kuechly is right now?
I want to say 38, but because you're asking, I'm going to say 32.
33. That's brutal.
And
he was so good.
We got
so damn good.
Quick question from Ethan Supports Every Fan, saying the Saints are going 12-5 this year. They got hot their last 5 games. You guys think Derek Carr will do good this year? So, Ethan, we were actually, if you rewind the video a little bit, we were talking Saints. We are very split on them. We are like, I am very conflicted because I like their roster, but I also hate their roster, and I don't know how to process that.
And people got to lose games in the NFL. That's another thing we talked about. And they are a prime candidate to lose games. But 12-5 is not out of the picture for them.
They have one of the largest ranges of outcomes in the NFL this year. I could see them winning anywhere from 11 games to 5 games. Like I just do not know which side I lean more.
I could see them having a top 5 pick, and I could also see them being the 3 seed in the NFC.
Yeah, so they're tough to place. But anyways, back to the Panthers. Cornerback room. J.C. Horn's really good when he's on the field. He missed a lot of time last year.
He missed a lot of time his rookie year too, didn't he?
He's missed a lot of time in his career in general.
Yeah.
But when he's on the field, he's really good. Dane Jackson, I really liked some of what I saw from Dane Jackson on tape. And Troy Hill, I think he was making some plays last year. This was a pretty good defense last year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Zero Evero was doing good stuff with them. This cornerback room does feel thin to me. I mean, you only got 4 proven names in the NFL. One of them is DiCaprio Bootle, who's I don't know how proven you really feel he is. And you got Shaw Smith-Wade, who was a 5th round pick, and a few UDFA, and the other Lamar Jackson. Like
the Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, the real Lamar Jackson, excuse me. The one from Nebraska.
Talk about the 2-time here.
But so like I like their starters here enough, but I don't feel like they're enough of difference makers to make up for the lack of depth there. And that's what worries me, especially with a player like J.C. Horn, who has missed time pretty consistently. And then in the safety room, Xavier Woods has still got it, man.
It's that the dude right there.
Play.
Love Xavier Woods.
That dude can cover ground like nobody's business. Xavier Woods is a very good football player. And Jordan Fuller was a solid starter last year. Then they got Nick Scott behind them. Like, Jamie Robinson's a guy to watch too. I think there was a lot of intangibles with him coming out. He didn't play much last year, but he could be a guy who has a nice year 2 here. But really, I like this defense a fair amount. They're lacking in star talent, but I think they're very solid across the board of starters. I just worry about the cornerback room if injuries hit.
Yeah. I miss Xavier Woods on the Cowboys. Could I just say that?
Yeah, you can. Dude is good.
Okay. I miss Xavier Woods. Come back. Baby,
and then
come back.
Ethan tells us he thinks the Panthers ceiling is 6 wins. I'm a little higher on them than that personally.
I think that's pretty spot on, Mr. Ethan.
But so what do you like for value here, Jay?
Man, so value wise, I like playoffs at plus 520. I think 5-1 to make the playoffs when 7 teams are making it. I mean, I talked about it earlier. I don't think 2 teams are getting out of this division, but at the same time, I don't think they win the division. I don't think I want to go the 10-1 odds on winning the division. But I could see some scenarios with some tiebreakers here to where they could squeeze their way in at the end of the season at 5-1.
I'm with you. I think that's the value.
That 5.5 win total minus 124 going over. Don't love that. I don't think they go under it.
Yeah, I just don't love it. Like, I want more value than minus 124. Like, I like the over, but
exactly. So I mean, I think when you're talking about the talent we have on this team, we talked about the wide receiver room, we talked about the running backs here, we talked about the offensive line potentially being pretty good, and we like this defensive back room. We like what they have in the defensive line. I could see a world where we look up at the end of the season, the Panthers go 9-8, and they squeeze into the playoffs. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen, but I think that's really good odds.
No, I'm with you. I definitely think this team added so much proven NFL talent this offseason that I think they really have a shot. If a few things go right, they could be a playoff team.
Yeah, I think so too. And in the NFL, where we see it all the time of teams going from bottom to top, it wouldn't surprise me one bit. So Ethan's saying Saints 12-5, Bucks 10-7, Falcons 7-10, Panthers 6-11
or 4-13.
or 4-13. Yeah, I mean, I just don't think the Saints are that good. I think Bucks and Falcons are the class of this division. I think something would have to go wrong for the Saints or for the Bucks and Falcons to not win this division.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can get into the schedule real quick.
Yeah. Let's get it pulled up here. All right.
Yeah, so we got the Panthers. I got the Panthers starting out hot with a win against the Saints to start the season, and then it goes down. It goes way downhill from there. You like the Panthers week 3 versus the Raiders, but outside of that, I don't have another Panthers win until week 8.
I've got them going on a nice little 2-game win streak against the Falcons and Commanders.
Yeah, and then
I think they're going to be feisty. I really think they're going to be a hard out for teams.
You have them sweeping the Saints.
Yeah,
we both have the Giants in the international game, and I don't know how I feel about that now.
Dexter Lawrence up against Austin Corbett.
Yeah, maybe that was it.
That's where and Brian Burns against Ike Ekwonu. Yeah, I think that's going to be trouble.
I do have the Panthers beating my Cowboys week 15. It's a game Cowboys lose. So I have that. I might have. We talked about it earlier with JC about not being the worst team in the league. I think I have the Panthers being the worst team in the league.
Let's see.
We could go through the entire NFC now.
4-13. I've got them at 6-11.
We can go through the entire NFC real quick and just clip a quick video now that we've done all of our.
So Ethan just made a great point in the comments, and this is where I really ended up with this team.
They could be the spoilers.
The Panthers will be spoilers and win 3 out of 6 division games. And then he says the Panthers should have won 3-3 in the division last year. They played every division game tough. Within a score almost. Like they were right there in a bunch of them, and adding this much NFL talent, proven NFL talent to that team, I think should get them over the hump in multiple of those games.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be the Lions. They could be like the Lions of 2020, where they only win 4 games, but they cover almost every spread.
I think they're going to be my favorite team against the spread this year.
Yeah. So, for me, I have 49ers winning the division, Bears winning the division, Lions winning, or no, that would be Lions giving the 5 seed. 49ers, Bears, Cowboys, Rams as your division winners, with Lions and Eagles being your 2 wild card teams. Well, which I don't know how
any of the Eagles, Cardinals,
Falcons, Bucks. Yeah.
Any 2 of those making the playoffs.
Yeah. So but I have the Panthers at 4-13 being the bottom of the NFC. I have 49ers at the top. And then Quentin has 49ers, Lions, Cowboys, Rams.
Yeah.
Wait. No, it wouldn't be Rams. It would be Falcons.
49ers, Lions, Cowboys,
Falcons as your division winners, with Bears and Rams getting your 2.
And then any of one of Eagles, Buccaneers, or Packers winning the last wild card.
Yeah.
Or Seahawks.
Yeah. So, but high on the Cardinals for both of us.
Yeah.
So we're not sleeping on the Cardinals. I might like the Panthers more than 4 wins, but I mean, I think they're going to be a tough team. They're just going to lose a lot of games, and I think they just have to be okay with that and just keep building on what they have.
God, the NFC is like like Saints and Giants, I could see either of these teams somehow being much better than this, but like it's just a narrow range of outcomes, I think. It's like a narrow margin for error, not narrow range of outcomes. Wide range of outcomes, narrow margin for error.
The biggest discrepancy we have is probably the Commanders. We have a 4-game difference there. I don't think we have anything close to a 4-game difference.
All right, let's do it for the entire league. Let's see what our biggest discrepancy is. Seahawks is 3. Commanders is 4. Bears are 3. So yeah, Commanders is the biggest one.
Yeah. I mean, everybody knows I'm the biggest Bear fan on this podcast, so cue the Bear hater, obviously. But yeah, I mean, we're pretty lockstep in how we think the season will go. So it'll be interesting to see. So now that we have the whole everything in front of us here, where do you think we potentially could be the most wrong in?
Let's see.
Because we got a lot of teams winning at least 9 games. Obviously, one of those teams is probably going to win 3, but most likely that'll be due to injury. So you can't predict injury, but
yeah, you have 19 teams winning at least 9 games. I have 20 teams winning at least 9 games. And let's take a look at how many teams won at least 9 games last year.
Falcons are kind of screwed thinking a 40-year-old QB will be their savior to get them in the playoffs, but Kirk Cousins will be great. He was on fire last year with the Vikings before he got hurt. Yeah, Ethan, that's what we were talking about, and like the fact that Kirk Cousins doesn't really need a whole lot of mobility to be successful in this league, and he's got a great offensive line. So we kind of talked about it earlier on.
Last year, 19 teams won 9 games or more.
Oh.
So we're pretty realistic here on the amount of teams we have winning 9+ games.
Yeah. I think let's see some of these top teams. Who could be the biggest disappointment this year that we have winning 12
Bengals.
games?
I think Joe Burrow. I'm betting big on Joe Burrow staying healthy.
Yeah. I think Cowboys are another one, but I do like Trey Lance a lot. If something happens with Dak, losing Sam Williams hurts because they already had depth issues at their defensive line. So,
I think the Rams have potential to be like. Well, no, I think the Rams, if their defense keeps up, they could be a 1 seed caliber team.
Okay.
But I think that's just a massive unlikelihood that they keep up without Aaron Donald. Personally.
Trying to see here. Jaguars, maybe we're underlooking.
Yeah, it's possible. Like if Trevor Lawrence takes a step.
Yeah. But
really, I think one of the Titans, the Giants, the Saints, or the Panthers, like one of those 4 teams being
will be a top
pretty
good
seed. Is that's my dark horse, like where we're going to be way wrong.
Yeah. Titans are so weird.
They are
with their roster construction. Did you see Jeffrey Simmons going crazy today at practice?
No.
He got in a fight at practice, then one of the reporters tweeted about it, and then he walked up to the reporter that was live streaming the practice, like interviewing players. He was like, "You're a pussy. You're a pussy." And the guy's like, "You want to talk about it right here, Jeff?" And Jeff's like, "No, you're a pussy." Live on air. It was incredible.
It sounds like a good thing to do live on air.
Yeah, that's what I want out of my defensive tackle. But
I won't argue that.
So, all right. Well, I'm excited for the season. Jordan Love. We don't respect Jordan Love on this podcast, Ethan. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think he's truly a mystery, and
he is a history. It is a mystery.
I had a Packers fan or a Packers content creator on my Bears podcast last week, and he said something really interesting, that the biggest mistakes teams make in the NFL historically is betting on second half of the season bursts of production, because they rarely translate the same way. It's like paying someone based on a second half of the season jump is usually fool's gold, which coming from a Packers fan, I thought was really interesting in respect to Jordan.
I think I've been honestly shocked by the amount of Packers fans that aren't fully bought into Jordan Love with the history that the Packers have, which is crazy because but I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, when you've had as much success, well, you say success, they've won 2 Super Bowls in the past 40 years. But when you've had as much quarterback success as the Packers have had, to not think it would work out.
Yeah.
And the Packers fans I see online seem very apprehensive. And then you look at the contract that he took, and you're like, whew.
It's a lot of money, man. It's a lot of money, a lot of commitment. Like they backloaded that thing with void years, and like it's a major commitment.
The crazy thing we didn't really talk about either is all these new contracts coming out. Patrick Mahomes signed his deal 2 years ago. He's now the 9th quarterback on money per year average.
Yeah.
Signing his deal 2 years ago, and he is still committed to Kansas City longer than any of the 7 people in front of him who signed their deals anywhere between a year to 3 years after he did.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you sustain success and win Super Bowls in this league.
Yeah. Mahomes knows it's at this point, there's more value in continuing to win Super Bowls than any contract he's going to sign. Like, to him personally, to his brand, it is more valuable to just keep winning.
But
he could hold out every year for a new contract. He has that type of power.
And that is one of those things specifically we were talking about. And we never really brought it up when we were talking about like if you have a top 8 guy who's not a top 5 guy, what do you do to sustain success? Well, we didn't even mention that like the number 1 guy in the league is going to be making less money. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what we just got done with Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Yep. And he's taking the Tom Brady playbook basically and being like, my financial success will come elsewhere if I keep winning Super Bowls.
Yep. He's following it to a T.
And I'm not saying somebody else out there should be like a Josh Allen, a Joe Burrow, anybody, like, not calling anybody out specifically, but it's like, at what point, if you really, really want to win, do you not be like, oh yeah, $30 million a year guaranteed is enough? Because if you're one of those guys, okay, and I know we're kind of running long, but these contracts are getting up mid 30s, high 40s, and they're not guaranteed, but you're going to make your money. But if you're a guy that was like, oh, I'll take 4 years, $120 million guaranteed. Everything's guaranteed. The whole contract's guaranteed. $30 million a year over 4 years.
Mm.
At what point is it like that's the route to go rather than signing the $189 million deal over 4 years, but you basically hit free agency after 3 years, like the way all these contracts are set up.
Oh yeah, I mean that's a big part of the math for the agents. Like you look at 3-year cash. That is what is looked at more than the total over X amount of years. It's the 3-year cash on a 4-year deal, or like it's how much you're really gonna make on it. And that's where some of the players who are going without an agent are kind of missing the point right now, where like they're set, like Trayvon Diggs is a great example. Trayvon Diggs' contract did not give him the security that lower contracts did and the cash. Because he negotiated it himself, it was not a good deal for him, even though the amounts seemed great.
Yeah. To me, it's gonna to really see a shift in this league, it's gonna take those guys being like, I'll take less money on paper for guaranteed money over a longer amount of time, because nobody's signing anything more than essentially 3 years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And Mahomes was like, no, I'll take a $500 million over 10 years. They'll restructure it 15 times
Mahomes
before
is
he gets
that contract is different. Like that contract, his money gets guaranteed for the following year at the start of each league year, as long as he's on the roster.
Exactly.
So there's really no getting rid of it, but it's like it's structured in a way that really gives the Chiefs some freedom while also giving Mahomes a lot of security.
So why would if you're Josh Allen, if you're Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott, some of these guys who, if you think you're on that level, why would you not try to do something like that? To put is it just no trust in the front office?
Quick shout out for Ethan. Joe Flacco is an Indianapolis Colt.
Joe Flacco is the GOAT outside of Mahomes. But what is it going to take for other QBs to follow a payment structure like that? Because I think we've been talking,
you need to be good enough for a team to trust giving you a 10-year deal, because there's only maybe 5 quarterbacks in the league that you would give that to.
Exactly. And that is essentially what we've been talking about through this entire breakdown of where is the middle ground to compete with a quarterback who's not a rookie, because it's basically 5 or 6 guys at the very, very top who are always going to be there, rookie QBs who have great rosters, and then purgatory basically after that.
I mean, I think any team would be wise to look at doing it that way. But like with Burrow, do you trust giving him a 10-year deal when he's missed significant time 2 out of 5 years?
I think so, because if you commit to a guy like that and you think he's the guy and you have him locked up for 10 years, you shut him down immediately with something that could linger or any sort of injury, rather than the Baker Mayfield situation in Cleveland.
Well, and I mean, so Josh Allen's is right there with Mahomes. Josh Allen's is less average than Mahomes over 6 years.
Yeah. So
Josh Allen's is Mahomes' contract, but it's 4 years shorter.
So yeah. So that's good. I mean, I think that's what it's going to have to take for these other quarterbacks to really be able to build up a roster. Because, like, what are the Bears going to look like in 6 years?
Hell if I know.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if 3 years down the road they can lock up Caleb Williams for 10 years and still keep Rome Odunze on the roster, I mean, you'll have an aging DJ Moore, but you can go out and sign some defensive players like the Chiefs did. And it's like, we know our quarterback's good enough to get it done no matter what. Let's go build up the defense.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have an answer for you, but it would make, if Caleb Williams is that guy, then yeah, like it makes sense. But he has to be willing to give, the player has to be willing to give that up, and the organization has to be willing to commit it. And there's a whole calculus there within that.
Yeah. But yeah, I just think that's the shift in the league that needs to happen. And that's all else I was saying. But what are we doing next week?
I do not know. I think we might take next week off.
Oh, okay.
I think I might need a week off after 8 weeks of cutting up video constantly. And
yeah, we need to get into fantasy, and we need to do a little bit of college football. So we have about 5 weeks left. 5 weeks left.
5 weeks left. Let's go.
Let's go. Hey, we have a preseason game Thursday. Are you excited?
I'll be on an airplane.
Where are you going?
Chicago.
For what?
Just a visit.
Oh.
First time in like 4 years. Yeah.
Back to the roots. Okay.
Yes, sir.
You going to Wrigley?
Yep. Go and watch Cubs Cardinals on Friday.
Oh, jealous. How was LA?
It's beautiful.
Beautiful. Okay, so we need to do fantasy. So we'll get the schedule here pretty soon, but I think that'll be it.
Yeah,
Ethan is blowing us up. Love you, Ethan. We need more Ethans in this world. What's your guys' opinion? Okay, hold on.
You think Derek Carr deserves more money than Jalen Hurts or Kyler Murray or Josh Allen? Carr typically doesn't get blown out in many games. I mean,
deserves more money?
I would not pay Derek Carr more than Kyler Murray or Josh Allen personally. Like I do not think, because those two guys have superpowers and they're still younger. Like Jalen Hurts doesn't have superpowers, so maybe that gets in there, but Jalen Hurts also did get to a Super Bowl, which has to hold some value.
Hold some value, yeah.
Kyler Murray and Josh Allen, they can both utterly take over games, which instantly makes them more valuable in my book.
Do you think Kyler Murray's going to be a Cowboy?
Maybe. That would be cool.
I think he's going to be a Cowboy. Oh, man. The more I think about the Cowboys this year, I don't know if this is the last ride or if this is the start to a dynasty. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Luckily, I'm a Chiefs fan.
All right, let's wrap it.
Let's wrap it there. All right, we'll see y'all next 2 weeks from now. We'll either be doing some sort of version of fantasy football or college football. We will get both of those to you well before the season starts. We just got to figure out the schedule. So thank y'all for watching. Thank you, Ethan, for all of your comments. Shout out, Ethan.
Shout out to Ethan. Don't sleep on the Cardinals.
Don't sleep on the Cardinals, baby. We'll see y'all next week or 2 weeks from now.
Adios.
That's how we've won all year, team, right? Because you held them to 20 points, man. You gave us a chance at the end. I got 3 words for you. You like that?